your smile. Now the sunshine brings the light. Fill me out with a flame. I will let you in this game. Take me out when I'm down. 'Cause with you I'm safe and sound. 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 Safe and sound.
Never ever find the right words, and there's no way this is real life. There's no telling you're the right girl, so I can only say that it feels right. It feels right. It feels right. Yeah, I can only say that it feels right. It feels right. It feels right. Yeah, I can only say that it feels right. Going with the gut, never had a doubt, felt like this is just a must. Put me in perspective, I'm the deepest in the cut. Everybody tuning in, but this is just for us now. We know I ain't ballin' yet, hoes wanna holler, oh no, I don't call them back. Girl, let me see you hold it down, we gon' have a blast. Cause I just wanna know what you gonna do with all of that. Ain't gotta say a word, I know what's up. You can have it all, watch me rip it off. I'll admit it, you got me feeling hella loved. Even when it's going down, know that we gon' live it up. Young shot caller, always been a baller. Know that you the one, I can feel it in my heart, yeah. I won't stop charging me, go and come harder. I can see you and I, way beyond the stars, girl. I can never ever find the right words, and there's no way this is real life. There's no telling you're the right girl, so I can only say that it feels right. It feels right. It feels right. It feels right. Perspective, I'm the deepest in the cut. Everybody tuning in, but this is just for us now.
gets colder, I will wait for you. The glitch in your eyes pulled me under, but I will wait for you. There's nothing left for me to do than run and act myself a fool. No point in trusting anyone. Your eyes of diamonds keep me up with the thought that it could be this rough. No point in trusting anyone.
Planet is cold, but your heart's colder. I will wait for you. The pitch in your arms will meander, but I will wait for you.
There's nothing left for me to do than run and act myself a fool. No point in trusting anyone. Your eyes of diamonds keep me up with the thought that it could be this rough. No point in trusting anyone.
When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. Earth from a bird's eye view. You should grow feathers and see this too. When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. want to get off their darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. Earth from a bird's eye view. You should grow feathers and see this too. When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down. When you want to get off the darkest ground, gravity pulls you straight down. Clear sky.
And ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to a very special night tonight. It's going to be a big one. It's going to be very much a lot of fun. And of course, as always, welcome everybody here to the Sea Autumn Split. This time around with some big changes to the usual scenery. You can see already a lot of people here tonight to give you not only the best of the League of Legends scene, but also the best of casting, because today we have Liffy on the top left, Recollect on the top right, JWheel on the left, and Oak on the right, joining us for today's beautiful cast. And they're going to go ahead and give us a little bit of an introductions about the teams that are coming on to the show today. How are we guys doing tonight, ladies and gentlemen? And also, how are my casters doing, gentlemen? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm definitely doing it, Gucci. Obviously, nice to be back for the finals. I'm excited because we got a load of great talent around us as well. Liffy, this is the first time I'm casting with you, but I'm sure you're going to absolutely smash it. Obviously, Recollect and Oak, what can we say? We've seen them cast before. It's going to be a great day today. It's a lot of hype, a whole lot of League of Legends, and these two teams have really come through. Started from the bottom, now they're here. They've made it all the way, and it's very clear to see that these two are ones that you have to fit.
Absolutely, and I'm just excited to watch today's games. So, and see how these two teams play up against each other. We've already seen these teams play in the regular split and ended up with a draw. So, hopefully, going to have that kind of conclusion to already quite a hyped up draft. I mean, we've seen them in their games already, especially with the semis that they played previously, and we're seeing a lot of hopefully new adaptations of World Patch currently going on. We're seeing some crazy jungle picks. We've seen a lot Yumi first pick. There's a lot of things going on right now. So I'm excited to see how these teams can maybe adapt their draft and get with current patch.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you mentioned the jungle picks, right? Because right off the bat, YOFT loved to play the Kindred, right? That was picked up in the final game, I believe, a couple of days ago. So a big pickup that I'm excited to see. We haven't seen a whole lot of just generally throughout the meta, so I'm excited to see how that does impact. Was able to pick the win on that one, and it's been a really interesting sort of case of these two teams and how they've come through. Because to me, the big talking point about these teams is the level of coordination they've got. Because the plays that they make are very rarely sort of individualistic, at least from what I've been able to see. It seems a lot more that the teams they make coordinated movements. For example, at least from the case of Definitely Not Washed Up, they like to use their mid jungle synergy and move around the map to gain advantages, and that's really how they got their lead in their last series. So I'm excited to see how that matches up against another team that can have that same level of sort of macro play.
Yeah, I love that you bring up the coordination and the macro play because Method to Madness, we've seen that in the last semifinals. They were taken to a full 5-game series, and kind of this warming up process, getting into the to the mindset of coordinating your team plays, figuring out what to do against your opponent. That's something that took them more than a game. So they dropped 2 games in that series actually back to back, and were on match point trying to claw back in until they managed to figure out what those macro plays were that gave them the advantage. And you guys also brought up the jungle picks, and I think their jungler was actually very much instrumental to that whole process, especially bringing out some of the more interesting picks like the Kindred, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and I'm definitely excited to see some of these cool picks. As you said, world picks could be flying around. We could be seeing some new stuff. Obviously, there are a lot of priority things in the bag as well that we will definitely discuss. Graves, Kindred, definitely some to name a few names. And obviously, the rise of those AD assassin jungles. We haven't seen them so far, but maybe they show up today.
Yeah, I think alongside with those potential jungle picks we're going to see, alongside with maybe the Talon, the Kiana, that hopefully will get mentioned in the drafts upcoming. You also got to look at bot lane as well, because this has been a really hotly contested area at Worlds at the moment, and we've seen some of these teams already pick up a couple of these key picks that are taking, well, especially this MF, right, taking Worlds at a storm. So hopefully we're going to see, I mean, especially Definitely Not Washed Up have been playing MF Amumu for almost a month now. Ever since Amumu got those changes in 10.18, the changes with the Q having 2 charges, champions look so big. So hopefully we're going to see some priority in those picks. And then as you've seen in Worlds, there's some adaptations. Silas being picked into the Amumu. We've seen Yumi suddenly rise in popularity. Lucian buffs, having him rotated into bot lane, that's going to hopefully take a hold. And we're going to see how these teams can handle these kind of draft adaptations.
Yeah, and I mean, if we do, discuss AD carry, like you say, I mean, there's also been a couple of interesting bot lane pickups that came through. For example, I think in the semi-final pick, we got to see the Senna Seraphine come through as well from the side of Method to Madness, which has been very interesting and something that has been, I think, on the cusp of boiling over that we haven't really been able to see yet, but has been theory crafted quite a lot. As you can also replace that Seraphine with Sona if it is banned out and go sort of the same route, and just have this infinite sustain type bot lane, which was very strong sort of last year. It was one of the big sort of matchups was where we saw things like the Sona Tarek, etc., etc. But on top of that, Lucian, the Lucian Nami rise in priority. These types of picks, the aggressive AD carries, are starting to come back, as well as one that we haven't seen, but I'm still saying is going to be very strong. It's the Jhin. It's not risen into the meta just yet consistently, but it's still very strong. Gives utility, which is something that I think is very underrated on the AD carry meta as of right now, given how strong the solo lanes can be. And to me, if I'm not seeing a Jhin pick, when things are starting to boil down, I'm going to be very surprised.
Yeah, and with that being said, we will be having a quick look before the game is getting into the virtual draft, because the teams are about to be ready. You can see the time on 0. That means they are ready to rumble. But yeah, let's have a look at where they come from, the last semifinals, for those that have missed it indeed. We're going to have a quick look, and maybe, I think, Oak, you want to walk us through the first clip, maybe?
I mean, I think actually Recolect wants to grab a clip
Sure.
from DNW, and then afterwards I'll jump in.
Great, let's do that then.
Yeah. So when talking about Definitely Not Washed Up, I think the first thing that comes to mind to me is coordination, right? It's where they specialize. It's their ability to make these plays and be successful both in an aggressive and defensive manner. And if we are able to bring up the first clip, you'll see that they do take this very aggressive approach here, invading in the team. And at first glance, it might not necessarily seem perfect, as you get this incredible opportunity for the bullet time over the top, but they just play it slightly better. They're just slightly more coordinated to their opposition, and that's always been their way to win. It's the reason why they were able to pick up this 3-1 victory over the Bumblebee Boys. And to me, if I was going to say, what team I'm expecting to pick it up, it's going to be definitely not washed up because of the fact that they have this superior coordination and their mechanics are still very, very good.
Nice. That was a good clip, by the way. But yeah, moving on. Now it is going to be Oak, though, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I want to back up those claims because I think alongside with how we've seen them be able to stance in this aggression, hopefully we'll pull up the clip here. And I mean, I'd love to get the audio in as well because
Sure.
Recollect it's a really clean cast on this. And but I think it summarizes it really well. Before we play this clip, you're going to see a real fantastic turnaround from Definitely Not Washed Up with a lot of damage found really early in the fight, which really just makes and breaks the play. So we're going to play the clip here.
Tools are available for the rest of the fight. It's a 4 versus 5, but I don't think Bumblebee boys have a whole lot left. They're the ones
Doesn't
that
look
have
like
to
audio's
run.
gonna
They're the
show,
ones
but
with
you
no
can
tools.
see
Even the
this is
package comes in.
fantastic
It's a
engage
Valkyrie
from
into the backline. The
Corki
stopwatch is
alongside with
good,
that package.
but have you
It's
gone a bit too
perfectly
far,
timed
Alti?
stopwatch.
Oh,
Even though we
look.
do see a turnaround kill here, ultimately this kind of like, especially playing for this, you'll see they're getting the Mountain Soul straight after this fight as well. This early setup, especially from the mid laner who hasn't really seen as much play as their jungler, and especially with their bot lane with how they've been drafting. And it's definitely cool to see a team as broad as this with so many different carry potentials, especially on Corki, which I don't think this champion hasn't actually seen a lot of priority, but plays it so well. So a lot of space for DNW to find different draft avenues, and if they play like this, yeah, definitely going to be an easy series for them.
Nice. That also, yeah, for the clips, you don't hear the audio, but stream does. Just to clarify that for you guys.
Okay.
No worries. But that's okay. I cut it off as soon as you kept talking, so don't worry about that. No overlapping there. And then I think, Liffy, you're going to finish it off with M2M. A bit of wager into their favor.
Absolutely. I think you have the tower dive around bot side first, and
Yes.
that kind of reflects the whole thing that I alluded earlier to, right? They found late into the series, but they found the strat that worked for them, and that was diving that bot lane over and over again. And this is just one of those ones. And they perfectly sync up this 3-man dive. They get the Galio ult in on top of that, and it just clean executed. Get 2 kills, get out, even get some turret platings off of that without the enemy jungler being able to do anything along the sides. And as mentioned, this is not the only bot side tower dive they've done this game, and that enabled them to completely dismantle the enemy team. And it just beautifully done once they found their groove on the macro level.
And then the next one you got us prepped for is this one. So what's going on here?
Exactly. It's a late game team fight, and this just shows off how much this Kindred was able to carry. We see the enemy Corki at the bottom of the screen trying to go for some damage every now and again, but they have so much threat potential to just swap over on him that he's not really able to get anything done in this team fight, can't go in, and you have the Gwen diving back in. They try to make anything work, but in the end, they get nothing, and M2M just walks out with 5 members alive. Beautifully done team fight, and that Lamb's Respite, that ultimate just completely carrying the whole fight.
Definitely. Well, that was a good first impression of M2M. I definitely not watched. How did they get here? How did they also become this good at League of Legends is the next question we're going to have, because draft is one of those components that makes you good at the game, because if you have the right champions, you can sometimes really create a miracle on the Rift, even if you seem to be not favored in the early stages of the game. And I think that is going to bring us to something beautiful like this first game. Now, for side selection, definitely not washed up. We'll start on the blue side. Method to Madness on the red side. Anything that is already worth noting when it comes to the draft, maybe from that stand-off point. I think if you have a nice maybe percentage from our last Summer Fantals we casted about the win ratios of blue side and red side.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. We had what was it, like 80% win rate
Yeah.
blue side, and the only game and that finally flipped the series was the only red side win for M2M then at the end. And yeah, so blue side seems to be interesting right now, especially considering there are a few really, really crazy power picks that you can pick up with that first pick, like the MF, for example.
But it does kind of counterplay into that as well, because you kind of had to look at it and go, okay, well, there's so many potent picks at the moment, so maybe red side is the better thing. But I mean, blue side clearly
Absolutely.
taking the dub there.
The interesting thing in this series to me specifically is that when I look at the two teams, definitely not washed up have had a tendency to really want to give themselves that top lane counter pick.
Mhm.
As Mad Max specifically in the last series was very solid on these carry based top laners, things like the Set, the Aatrox, these types of picks. If he's given a counter pick, can be very devastating. And so it's interesting that they go with the blue side here in this one, because obviously, with the case of rotation, it's likely that they'll end up not taking the red side later on down the line in game 5. But I'm definitely excited to see how side selection will impact this one, especially given how broad first pick priority has been.
I mean, there's also a lot of R1, R2 combo picks that are really potent at the moment. I think a Mumu MF is the one we always talk about right now. It's so strong in that first rotation. And then alongside with counter pick, it does give you a lot of options in red side, but that B1 is very scary. I mean, I think the teams that the Yumi first pick is always something that makes me laugh, but there are some really key picks that we're seeing. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of priority on these kind of bruiser style junglers, because both teams have been playing it so far. The Xin Zhao, the Viego, so definitely some stuff to take away as well.
But times are changing, though. Obviously, recently picks have come through. Kiana, Talent, Zed. They're starting to push out a few of these old picks, and it is switching up the meta. We'll have to see how it goes through, because as we said, no one has picked these picks in previous games, so it would be something kind of out of the blue. And we'll have to see if they do decide to lock that in. But with that being said, I'm imagining a pretty similar style from the two teams. My personal breakdown is that Method to Madness definitely live up to the name. They play a very solo QS kind of style where they just all play to win, which I don't dislike, but definitely not. They've come through a little bit more collected. Their synergy on their comps have been looking pretty good.
Yeah, and with that being said, we're heading actually into the draft already. So let's have a look at that, and we'll be saying goodbye to Liffy and Recollect for now. They'll be right back for the NLS disc right after the game, so to stay very much tuned for that. And with that being said, Jay, Will, and Oak, have fun with the first one of tonight, because it's going to be blue side definitely not washed up, and M2M on the red side with some spicy bands already.
Well, definitely they're clearly been watching a little bit of League of Legends recently. Jace and the Yumi banned away immediately. We have the Bard and Lucian taken away from Method to Madness as well.
Yeah, that Bard has been a really important pick for DNW. So I'm not surprised to see it taken away. The Yumi I'm quite surprised at, but we have seen some teams really excel with the pick at the moment. Jace as well. I feel like a lot of these picks that we're seeing from both sides are these B1 picks. Jace is so potent in that first rotation. Alongside with the Kiana, which you mentioned, some assassins. I mean, I think Yoft has shown some tendency to pick into. We've seen the Kindred so far in semis, so I'm surprised to see them take that off the board. But that is what it is.
It is what it is. Tryndamere there banned away as well. It's pretty fair. Playing against someone that just can't die is pretty annoying, and you're getting way too excited with the Graves being locked in. I know you want to talk about it, so go away with it.
Champion is so good. We've seen its potency at Worlds so far, and this champion's been really sleeper for so long. Any LS Nemesis viewers will know how strong this pick is. It's also fantastic because not only could it be first picked into a lot of matchups in the mid lane, it can also be flexed into jungle and even top lane that we've seen it so far. So I'm really happy to see this. But we talked about the Amumu MF possible R1 and R2 picks, and we're seeing the MF taken away here. This champion's had a lot of pressure at Worlds at the moment. It's one of the best AD carries in solo queue as well, and it's really, really easy to play, which means you get to put all of your mental onto, okay, how are we going to play these team fights? You can project that early on because you know exactly how the lane phase is going to go.
What did I say? What did I say? Just give me the money. Talent coming through immediately. Now, I will say, Graves, although an ADC, is not the same as others. He's built different. He gets a lot of armor stacks, so he's definitely ready to fight off these assassins. It is going to be an interesting one to take on. Misfortune picked up. We didn't see the Amumu, which you kind of hinted to. I am surprised. Maybe they're saving it for a little bit of a later pick. But Ezreal there, going to be the hover with Leona, gives a lot of roam potential for that support.
And DNW love picking these synergistic AD support picks. They've done the Ezreal Bard countless times. I think with the Bard being taken away, they're opting into a little bit more aggression this time. But the Leona plays the same path that they want to do with the Bard. A lot of early skirmishing that they can get to play into. The solo flare is obviously so impactful in these early skirmishy team fights. So I'm really happy to see this kind of draft because Leona plays so well with Graves, especially because Ezreal is such an easy time in lane. It means that DNW support gets to move around the map constantly with this champion.
Yeah, and roaming about is going to be really important. We talked about Talon, the parkour is there. Nautilus going to be picked up as well. Very good with Misfortune. I think also the Leona is a really good snipe because leaving that open with Misfortune is pretty disgusting as a duo. So it is a good takeaway. Sylas going to be banned away. So we're not going to be seeing any Sylas picks. I am surprised that they still didn't go for a Mumu, especially if they were thinking about banning that Sylas.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe the Nautilus is a comfort pick into Leona. A lot of people like the Leona into Nautilus matchup, but I think it tends to be more skill based once you get up to these higher levels, which I don't often get to cast. Not surprised to see TF banned away as well. I think this champion definitely has its space in draft, and it can create, especially because of how easy it's blinded right now, how much impact it has on the map in the early to mid game, and especially with the buffs it got, last year, a lot of damage coming out, especially once you hit that rapid fire.
Indeed, and we'll have to see how those things do lock up. The LeBlanc band away, I'm surprised a little bit. They are definitely targeting that mid pool. It's become very popular at Worlds.
Yep.
I don't know like how great it is truly. Maybe you are a little bit more
I think the
revised in it.
potency lies in how good you are on the champion. I think just like a lot of these champions we're seeing right now, the Irelia, Graves, it's very akin to one of those where it has a lot of space to really take over a game very aggressively. If you can find the correct wave control, roam time as an early kill pressure in your laner, and this champion can really start to dominate. And it also works really well alongside this Talon Nautilus, can function really well into or with the Leona even. So I'm not surprised they ban it away. But this Aatrox has been signature for M2M. I'm so happy they locked this in. They picked it 3 times in their semis. So yeah, definitely a key pick for them.
Yeah, and it's a really strong pick. Like, you could leave him on the weak side. He can get out of situations. He can fight 1v1. Fiora, however, it's going to be
Yeah.
a great difficulty for Aatrox.
Ooh.
There, obviously, the 1v1 potential for Fiora is pretty unmatched, and it is going to be the Fiora locked in. So the Grand Duelist is going to be taking on the Demon. We'll have to see if Aatrox can overcome that, because level 6 Fiora pretty scary.
And I had this conversation recently with a friend where it's like, when should you do parry? And it's like, just use it. It doesn't matter really what you parry, because you tend to win this matchup so long as you use that spell on any knockup. Obviously, you want to be aiming for Q3 for that parry, but he kind of gets to do what he wants, especially if you can pilot this Fiora properly. You can take over this matchup pretty quickly, and a constant side lane pressure is really going to pull Aatrox out of those potential team fights. And the Galio picked alongside it. Okay, I'm not seeing a lot of synergy alongside that Galio, but obviously they picked it before. They picked it alongside the they picked it before, and I'm hoping to see maybe some proficiency on it. It is blind, however, so this does give a lot of space for M2M to potentially look for another counter pick. Maybe even put the Talon in that mid lane.
Yeah, and it's a sentiment where Galio they've used before. It works really well with Graves because you can set someone up to just get absolutely destroyed. It's literally clay pigeon shooting with the Galio and the Graves set up. And Kassadin is going to be the target. So will they be able to lock him down pre-6? Obviously, that's always the question that people ask when you do have to play into the Kassadin. Once he gets level 6, those ganks do become a little bit more difficult. But saying that, still, Galio has so much lockup that it may still be on. So providing definitely not don't take this to level 16 Kassadin, they definitely have a good option for winning the early game.
Yeah, I do think that I am quite interested to see how this casting does, because I think outside of the actual matchup itself into the Galio, I do think it might struggle a little bit when we're looking against the Leona, looking into the Galio. That's such easy CC, and alongside that, he's facing a triple AD threat. So I am interested to see how it does. I think alongside with the team, though, they seem to be locking in their team goals pretty easy. They're playing for these individual picks. They are, these potential team fights through the MF ulti if they can. Whereas alternately, we're seeing a different, very clear 4-1 comp alongside with this Galio being really supportive and allowing the Leona, the Graves, and the Fiora to really play as aggressively as they want. So I'm really liking DNW's draft so far. I think they're definitely not washed up.
Yeah. Oh my days. And anyway, we'll move on from that one swiftly. That one is just going to be dashed to the side for now. But either way,
you logged once per game. It's okay. One per game you can do. That's okay.
Cool.
Either way, it's definitely an interesting one for me. I think that definitely not have come through, and they've picked a very standard team, like we said. They've come through with the synergy. They're looking to set up their carries and put their carries on the map. Method to Madness have gone for the signature. We're just going to get someone ahead, and then they will carry the game where everyone can basically win. I'm not sold on the Kassadin pick because it does have to go to the late game. Graves, Fiora, and the Ezreal are all going to become big problems before Kassadin necessarily gets to 16. But depending on how they funnel it, maybe they can kind of speed up the pace of the leveling. I'm a little bit worried about that Graves, I will say, if you are Method to Madness, because we've all played against the Graves that's got a little bit too fed. They've got way far ahead. and it's just a mess. So I think for them, it's kind of damage control. Method Madness needs to kind of keep it relaxed, play for that late game, play for the scaling, because if they get into these early mid fights, it's going to be all definitely not.
Yeah, I think the real way methods are gonna try and find some success is playing through this bot lane, right? Because the Nautilus and Meth, whilst they have a lot of space in this Ezreal Leona because Ezreal won't really have that early skirmishing fight potential even, and that gives a lot of avenues for Yoff to try and find those leads. And this player is so potent in finding those leads in the early game. He's looked incredibly dominant, especially in the games where, we saw the Kindred clip. Look at how fed he got in that game, and this has been repeated for them. So picking this up this early game talent, we can see their goals are very clearly, okay, well, once again, Yoft is going to be our early game access. And through that, hopefully we can spread out the team gold, get it on the rest of our team, and then play for this mid game. Even if they are playing for this level 16 Kassadin, unlocking these first two Drakes is going to do a really good job of slowing down DNW's potential scaling or mid-game fighting even. So I'm excited for the talent pick. We haven't seen a lot of it, so I'm hoping he does well on it.
Yeah, indeed, and it's definitely a new pick. It's definitely one that people haven't really played loads and loads and loads of games against. So it's still going to have that edge of, if you've played a lot of Talon, you're going to have the knowledge basis over most other people.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, Talon jungle definitely feels very different to Talon mid from what I've seen so far. It feels like it scales a little bit slower, but once you do get those items, you just pop off.
Yeah, the champion's still the potent assassin, even in jungle. I think having access to that red smite especially does give a little bit of edge in those individual picks. Alongside with the comp, you can see now with the full draft that we're seeing from both teams, I think we're definitely seeing different goals align. Definite, very clear split push comp now from DNW. I'm excited to see how the Fiora does in the matchup because, as mentioned, this champion functions really well into the Aatrox. So it's a lot of pressure for Unaxis to play his big champion, play it properly and play it well to alleviate some of the pressure from the Fiora, especially once she hits that Gordon Hysterics combo, which I would most likely see her drafting into just because skirmishes are likely to happen with this draft. And then alongside that, I think Yoft, the Talon, alongside with this comp, which really only avenue to be playing through is this bot lane because top mid, not really exactly full of CC. So other than that, Yoff may be looking to take advantage of the Graves early game.
Yeah, and let's just talk about Gordon for a second. It is literally the most ridiculous item in the game, and we're going to see at least 3 because we're going to see Fiora, Aatrox, and Talon all build it, I suspect.
Yeah, this champion's seeing nerfs coming in the upcoming patch. Everybody's kind of already aware of how good it's looking at the moment, especially with how Stridebreaker fell off in the last 5 patches. Gordon here definitely the go-to, and I think with the Fiora especially, I wouldn't be surprised to see it just because it does give some of that some of those easier grouping options. And Fiora's in such a good spot right now. I think this champion can't be underrated. Definitely, especially in the slot that they've managed to put it in, going to look really potent so long as it can get through the first 15 minutes of the game.
Yeah, indeed, and we'll have to see. Early game definitely feels like a big deciding factor. I think if definitely not get really far ahead, it could just be the end of the game for Method Madness. But saying that, if Method can maybe be a little bit less mad for the first start of the game, maybe they can have the snowballing effect. They can get to that mid game, they can get to the late game, and really start to turn up the damage as well. Because I feel like for them, when we talk about scaling in the game, I do think that Method Madness have the better late game.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I think casting level 16 is just such a huge threat on that point, and especially because alongside that 16, he's going to be on that Void Staff. He's going to have his items completed, so gets to have a really easy access to look for that one-shot burst and 80 carries, and he's also playing into a relatively squishy comp as well. I think the Galio and the Fiora can definitely do a good job of tanking out some of that damage, but Graves does not have MR scaling on that E. He's going to get blown up by this casting, especially when we're looking towards, casting level 16 is always so hotly contested, but level 11 even, he's going to be doing a lot of damage. And I think it plays really well into the comp that they've drafted because the Nautilus, such easy lockup playing through that, and combined with the bullet time, Casting got a lot of space to be playing around these fights because Nautilus makes fights so messy.
Yeah, and I will say, you talk about the blowing up factor. Graves ain't no joke. If you get hit with the end of the line, the quick draw auto, the collateral damage, that is sometimes just it. Cassidy might just quick riff walk in and then just bang to the face. Graves ends his life. We'll have to see how fed this Graves get, because that is definitely potential. We've all seen it. We've all, well, not all done it. Not everyone plays Graves, but it's a sentiment of you can just Q, auto, R, and that is it. Someone is dead. There's no reaction time for that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how these players actually build, because the Graves definitely has his very key build right now with the Eclipse straight into that Lord Doms to try and get the maximum amount of armor pen in this mid game. So hopefully we're going to see correct builds, because some of these picks that we're seeing right now haven't seen a lot of popularity, and there are builds you want to be going towards to maximize your damage in the early and mid game. So going to be looking towards the casting, the Graves, and the Fiora for that one.
Didn't he? Let's just wait, chat. Let's just hold this one for a sec here. Oak didn't even say optimal. He said correct. Okay, the professor is in town. He's living up to the name, and he's bringing us the builds. I love the energy. I love this game. It's going to be a real banger to kick us off in the series.
Nice. Yeah, with that being said, we're going to get into our first game of tonight. We have obviously already all of the champions loading onto the Rift beautifully, and we're going to get into this beautiful, I was about to say, a beautiful League of Legends gameplay. But once again, quick reminder for everybody that is not quite aware as we get ourselves into the game. It's going to be Method to Madness versus Definitely Not Washed Up, and it's also for $600 sponsored by Oppo GX. We're going to get onto that watch later in the game. But yeah, for now, enjoy the show, and please do also give us your prediction about who is going to win tonight with a bet in the chat. That's as easy as it gets. Yeah, with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in already. We love everybody that is supporting Connect Esports and the teams, as well as all of our beautiful casters. And we can see the 5-man points, so nothing crazy going on just yet. JWL on it, Oak, sadly no invites, but yeah, maybe starting it safe is the way to go for game number 1.
I think we're just seeing some signature wards placed down, which is the important thing here. We're going to see that early blue ward on the bot side as well, to hopefully spot if that Nautilus MF does leash. I really like this ward. That it's a safer ward to see if they are going to look for that early cheese. So I'm really happy to see it come out from, I think Dargod placed that down, or maybe it was Graves. Oh, I just spotted it's double Ignite Smite from both junglers here. This is a really cool double adaptation that I honestly haven't really seen that much.
Yeah, and I will say, there was a point in my time where I played a lot of Graves jungle. I'm not ashamed of it. I might go back to it soon. It's a really fun champ to play. Ignite Graves is no joke, man. Graves early game, he's already pretty strong. He already likes taking those 1v1s, but with the Ignite, he just crushes most people. And Talon, obviously we've talked about the burst, but he's going to have to be a little bit cautious about taking on the Graves head-to-head. Should have the slight advantage, but if he makes any slip-ups, he could get punished.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised to see. Oh, as we see it.
Ooh, Dargod getting taken, low Ignite ticking. It's not going to be enough, though. The flash does come out from the Ezreal, though. So early pressure with the Misfortune Nautilus is definitely putting him on the back foot.
Yeah, we know it that in draft. They're taking best advantage of it already, even with that combat summoner being down, with the MF taking the cleanse instead of the heal, finding a lot of early pressure into this Ezreal. And the big thing to know is the reason why is the Ezreal started Sword Triple Port instead. Now, this build tends to pay off if you're able to wait for the first 3 levels, but that Doran's combat stats in the first 3 levels really helps his all-ins, and they find it perfectly here, and you can see taking best advantage of it.
Indeed, and they're starting to push the Ezreal in. That's going to make it a little bit harder for him to farm as well, and the poke is definitely coming through as Cassidy walking into the taunt. A little bit crazy there from Hypo, but he's going to take a chunk of damage and will be able to walk away.
Yeah, Hyperficer's got to be really careful because, you know, the Galio's no slouch in the early game, has a lot of trait, especially with the passive being able to be procced basically every fight into the cast-in. Gonna be able to put a lot of pressure on that, and that's really going to help their jungler be able to find, hopefully, first scuttle. It does seem that both junglers started on the opposite side of the map, so I think Yoft managed to find his what he was looking for there, because he definitely doesn't want to be finding the Graves, especially with this Galio having the perma shove in the early game.
Indeed, and both 5 camps, both going to go for the scuttles, so neither of them is behind. And to be fair, I'm not too surprised. Although Death Rush now, Yoft is going to catch out Tay, who is now going to jump in. Will flash over the red pit, but there's the parkour. Yoft on the chase. Will he be able to get into range? The answer so far is no. Baxterway doesn't want to get caught out, as Flash in the mid lane is going to have to be utilized by Hypo. Good gank there from the Graves.
And I wonder if Otide knows that you can actually E-Flash and Galio at the moment. Would be surprising to see because it's not technically allowed. I mean, that is a bug at the moment. So it would be interesting to see as we're going to pull up a replay here, hopefully, of the...
No,
Doesn't look like we
sorry,
will.
that was my bad.
No, that's okay. Yeah, just going to be looking at... Oh, big catch.
No damage followed up, and now Tay going in. Warriors are going pretty low, the Ignite ticking, but here comes Talon looking for the final bit of damage, but not going to be able to proc the passive. And Yoft taking so much damage. The minions by MVP. The block was huge, and now Xmar going to have to run for the hills. The damage on the back will not kill just yet. The minions once again saving their laner, but that is such feels bad for the Talon.
Yeah, and this combat stat from the Ezreal here coming in huge. You see, has the heal available, manages to burn it off, and I think Yoft also got minion blocks really heavily here. Fantastic Q here, but MF just isn't in position, and the pick doesn't end up working out. But
But in real time, Misfortune stepping up, picking up the kill, and now going to walk away from the Leona. It is a 1v1 support versus ADC. Who will pick up this win? Tay going to go in and picks it up with his Zenith Blade. Is now in the top side. We do see Mad Max is trying to get away from Anaxis, goes under the tower. The Ignite ticks over, and the tower will finish off the kill.
what an early game from these teams, and DNW taking best advantage of it. 4 kills up already, almost 2k on the board at 5 minutes. And this Aatrox is going to be struggling in this matchup. Already a kill down, has to burn that flash, and you see has already burnt the TP as well. So Mad Max, TP advantage, already got an assist lead. He's sitting in a very comfortable spot, and I think he's going to enjoy it.
Yeah, for a second I thought you were going London. I thought you were about to say picked up bare kills, and I was like, damn, okay. Okay, get a bit high for this one. I rate that. But right now, Hypo has got level 6. So Kassadin in the mid lane, going to be a little bit safer than he was early, but still doesn't have that flash.
I think that's what he's looking for. You see, this is fantastic rotations for both supports here. And
Galley with a knockup, but Tate now going to be on the back of the chase. In comes Graves as well. It's a 3 versus 3. They're going to start backing away. Warzar will cook himself out of this play. And it is going to be all even Stevens. No one is going to drop just yet, but Love able to start getting a lot of priority upper level already on the talent.
yeah, it's going to be great for Tet and the rest of his team as they hopefully set up some initial vision around this Drake, and they're the ones with the pressure at the moment. They're the ones with the gold lead. I think the best place to be looking right now is look at the bot lane. Tyr and Sheen already picked up by this Ezreal, and we talked about how the MF's going to have a lot of potency in this early game. That's going to be really minimalized when you look at how safe already Dargod's looking. He's just going to be, and also this Sheen's going to really help him with these kind of slow trades that hopefully Leona will be able to take best advantage of.
Yeah, one thing I love about Israel, I hate playing against the champ entirely, but I love that when you have Israel on your team, you can roam so much. It's allowing Tay to really roam around the map and cause a lot of problems for the mid, for the top, if they do so choose, and also really support that jungle in any endeavor that they want to take. As we do see the first dragon is going to be picked up there by Definitely Not, and that is the way to kick off this game. They want to get that pressure from the early Drakes and force Method to Madness into some bad fights.
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about how Yoft really wants to get on these early Drakes if possible to minimize some of that mid-game pressure that DNW is going to have. And this early Drake, especially with the Ocean coming out first, is really unfortunate and only going to benefit DNW for hopefully taking this team apart before late game can hit.
Indeed, and Yoft starting to fall behind on the Graves, and this is pretty much why Graves has been one of the most frustrating champions to play against, because he clears really fast, he clears very healthily, but also it's really good at the fighting 1v1. There are really few downsides to Graves in the early game, and Yoft is feeling that, not able to keep up in the CS, so he's going to go slightly behind in experience, but also the ganks have been very strong from the Graves in total.
Yeah, I think, and that's best played through the Leona. We've seen Ter moving up repeatedly and being an access for this Graves to try and look for these early game skirmishes. We're seeing this again with Ter once again moving up to the mid lane, and we're seeing how Otide's currently got pressure in this lane, and they're trying to push as much as possible, keep the vision up and restrict M2M's vision as much as possible. So that, look at this, once again, because of this Leona on the map, Graves feels definitely more comfortable to be taking this, having cleared out that top vision as well.
Yeah, and also the Galio on top as well. The hero's entrance cannot be forgotten about. It gives so much agency to your jungler or to your laners. If he is just around, he can swoop in and really turn an engagement. As Xmar is going to push in Dargod, but as we said, the Mystic shots keep the Ezreal so safe. The True Shot Barrage over the top is going to get a bit of damage down and also clear out that wave, so it's going to be fully pushed in. And now Tay joining back into the lane. He's going to go straight aggressive. Warriors are trying to walk away there, and here goes the bullet time over the top, but top lane is the action. We'll watch first as it ends up being pretty much a mute point for both sides. But saying that, talent is lurking.
And this is the counter rotation that we want to see from Yoft, as maybe Hypothesis trying to get a pick on just a little bit of trading from Otard and Hypothesis. Oh.
Yeah, it's not going to go too... It's pretty wet noodle, I'll say, at this point. Like, neither of them have major damage. Like, Galio just doesn't have much damage, and Kassadin has to get through the tanky MR Galio. Either way, it's not going to go down. But Xmar not having the bullet time now. Warriors are also still not level 6. They are slightly behind, definitely not spot lane.
I am surprised to see the Castin go for this Merc Rush, especially into the comp he's playing into. It's going to give a lot of space for Ezreal and Graves, as we already talked about how threatening DNW's mid game is going to look anyway. On top of that, this Merc Rush, I mean, minimalizing the threat of Otide, but in return, the rest of the enemy team is going to look that much stronger. Yeah, scary.
And they're a lockdown. Obviously, Leona has 3 different CCs to lock you down. Yep. Galio, admittedly, the knockup isn't going to be affected because I don't believe knockups are affected by tenacity. And also the taunt from Galio is going to come through. There are 4 CCs that it will help them out with, but I do agree there's a lot of damage coming from the AD stats.
Yeah, anyway, you're going to see some regular clearing here. I'm hoping that Tear continues this, especially with this wave in bot lane at the moment. Hopefully, because they saw Yoft on this bot side, they're going to know where his clear is generally going to be, and Tear going to take best advantage of it and continue this rotation on the upper side of the map. And I'm honestly surprised Warizar hasn't moved out of the map, hasn't moved out of the lane already. I would want to see him trying to match that if possible, because as mentioned, they want to try and find something in this early game. I think especially around this Aatrox or just through Yoft on this talent at the moment would be a great way for them to try and find a little bit of comeback in this early game. But that 2k gold lead has remained pretty stagnant over the last 5 minutes. So we're just trying to minimize that gold deficit as much as possible.
Yeah, momentum. We talked about it before. They don't have the better early game, but they do have better scaling. If they can just slow down the pace of the game, not leak too much in terms of gold and experience leads, then they definitely set them up nicely for those later stages. But if definitely not get those big gold leads, it is going to be really, really difficult for them to get back into this game.
Yeah, I mean, even with in terms of pretty good scaling, I think the Fiora is also definitely look very scary in this late game. So it's pretty hands up at the moment, especially as we're looking at how well Max is doing in this matchup. As I say that, or almost 10 CS down and not finding the appropriate trades at the moment.
Yeah, and Aatrox able to get a little bit of damage off, but it's not going to be too much just yet. However, definitely not setting up for the Dragon. So Mad, he knows that he's going to be on his own for a little bit. He can't really be taking these risky trades because if someone is in the top side, he doesn't have any support to help him.
Yeah, I mean, even with this casting, I mean, with the fleet being able to basically self-sustain in this matchup alongside that Merc Treads, the early pressure on this Drake is going to be really minimal. It's almost entirely up to Warizar and Xmar to create some space and maybe find a bullet time depth charge combo. Big CC.
Ooh, Graves there dashing in, but Hyper able to get away, does have a good flash, and he will get to safety, so not going to be collapsed on just yet. As we do see Warizar join into the mid side, the Herald is going to be placed down, and that will be a couple of plates.
Yeah, just those 2 plates gold's going to be going over to Love there. Oh wow, really good rotation here. You see, as they summon, they see the 3-man in the mid lane. They go, okay, great, we're going to do a wrap round, go straight for that Drake. They're picking up the early Drake so early as well, and that means we're either looking towards an Infernal or a Mountain Soul here.
Yeah, and I think both are pretty good. I think that obviously everyone loves Infernal, which it is going to be. And we do see Hypothesis are going to be caught out by Kata, but it's not going to be too much, as there is no damage to really follow that play up. And with these Dragons already taken down, the Infernal Soul, it does feel like there's a lot of pressure on Method to Madness to start taking these next Drakes, but do you feel like they're going to be in a position to actually start taking these fights?
It depends how much pressure we can see the MF and Nautilus push out. As I was mentioning there, the step charge bullet time combo is really important for them to get succinctly in these coming fights. Big all in.
Oh, Mad is in a lot of trouble here. The World Ender coming through does riposte one of the smashes, but it's not going to be enough. Here comes Yoft, an easy pickup for him. The Talon just able to sneak in, pick up the kill, and also Hypothesis did TP, so maybe a little bit of an overcommit from Method to Madness there, but they do find the kill. They will get some damage onto the towers, and they will get some platings for the Atrium.
Yeah, a lot of comms there to make sure that Mad dies there, and they're definitely identifying this Fiora early as a possible issue, and they're making all stops to make sure it gets punished properly. And you're seeing here that we know the kill, but look at these plates. 3 plates down already on this top lane, and second scuttle will be spawning shortly. And now this Talon on the Gore Drinker already, so we're seeing the high realization, we're seeing the different builds come in, and this Talon's definitely going to benefit from that more Bruiser style build path. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Yomu second anyway, but we're seeing a possible Tabeyes as well correlating with this build.
And you talked about builds a little bit, you talked about Graves a lot as well. What do you make of this Graves build? Yomu's first.
Yomu's first has seen a lot of pressure early, or a lot of play even in the current patch with those changes, getting the CDR alongside that really high lethality stat plays best towards this early game. And I mean, hopefully you're seeing Loathe, is that it? Taking advantage of this, because look at his CS right now. 15 CS up, almost 4 camps up on this Talon at the moment. And also, you know, hitting that 8 CS minute margin already. Looking really good on the Graves, even if their team did just end up sacking first turret in the top lane, which, by the way, really big pickup for M2M, getting that hopefully a lot more of that early gold. And you can see that gold has dropped down now to just under 1k deficit.
Indeed, and we can have a little look at the solo gold as well. And if you do look at it, the Aatrox is about 500 ahead as Xbox Dagod. They're going to have a bit of a big trade here. The bullet time over the top will take Dagod pretty low, but he is going to be able to survive.
Yeah, just very scary for him to be positioning that solo, and then MF finally being on her item, even with the gold down. Finally, hopefully able to find a little bit more pressure. And you can see that repeated shove-in really playing well done. This might be the second turret they're unlocking now. And this is going to really help Warizar and the rest of his team try and establish some aggressive vision. And you're seeing it here. Look at the red line. At the moment, we're seeing a very aggressive vision stance from M2M. That's going to really help them play towards the early, as you're seeing here now.
Talking about aggressive, Tay is caught out. Will use sort of play to get himself to safety, but the invading Talon, it's going to cause some problems. As now on the top side, we do see another solo trade, but on Axis, going to be stunned up by the riposte and will just allow Mad to walk away. And the tables definitely feel like they turned a little bit. Method to Madness have managed to gain quite a bit of pressure for themselves. They're definitely feeling a little bit more positive than necessarily the start of this game, especially with the Aatrox getting a bit ahead, and they definitely feel like they're starting to pick up their tempo.
Yeah, definitely didn't get scared of this Graves picking up some early kills, and it plays best to what they want, because this Graves doesn't have a lot of early pressure for these ganks, especially alongside with that Fiora and the Ezreal. If they know that Leona's off the map, then Graves has relatively little CC to play through. So okay, we're already aware of this. The Graves won't be able to pressure us up if we do continually push, and so that's what they do, continually push. Aatrox picks up 5 plates in the top lane, alongside with that pressure. We saw the TP earlier, and double tower means that they get to play for this third Drake now if they continually get these waves shoved on these side lanes. And on top of that, it should also allow them to play for this mid turret soon. The Darkgod maybe getting caught out.
Ooh, the Cassidy is on the chase. Same with Yoft as well. The Talon should be able to lock this one up. Darkgod is mobile, but it's not going to be enough to get away from the parkour skills of Yoft. And that will be an easy pick just before Drake as well. Ezreal will be alive when it spawns, but it may not be at the Dragon Pit.
Yeah, and we talked about the casting level 11 as Solar Flare comes out.
Ooh, Hypothesis on the run. Love trying to get in close. We do see the flash from the Leona, the stun, the lockup. It's going to be enough, and the Graves will be able to pick up that kill. So Cassidy traded over for the Ezreal. It does give a little bit of favor back to definitely not for the Strand.
Yeah, they got the first 2 Drakes. I think they're trying to get on this Soul as quickly as possible, because they do know the looming threat of that Cassidy and the Talon is going to be very scary coming into that 3-4 item mark. So trying to find a counter pick there just to look for this Drake, but look at this, the pressure on the mid lane with these waves shoving in. They might be looking to trade for this mid tower here, and this would really play to what they want. They want to minimize vision as much as possible, but there's a rotation.
They are coming down for this. The TPs are going to be coming through as well. It does dissuade them a little bit. Fiora going to dash away as well, and it means that the Dragon is going to go cleanly over to Definitely Not. That's their third of the game. 1 away from Soul now, and if you are Method to Madness, you need to be making plays for the next Drake.
Yeah, absolutely. Soul now ever looming as they're hopefully going to aggressively stomp this mid turret. They should have looked for the trade in the first place and understood that they weren't really in position to fight for it. But now they know exactly where their goals should be. They want to unlock this mid turret as soon as possible because we saw how they've been playing around their vision, minimalizing D&W's vision as much as possible, and using those empty spots to play through Yoft and get some kills onto him. So now Yoft is in a bit of a spot where he's like, okay, you gotta make sure to move some of that gold onto the rest of your team, and how can you do that?
Indeed, as we do see Yoft are going to try and take this Gromp, we're going to meet Mad Maxa, but here comes Warizar and Xmar, definitely a very lethal duo. And it is going to be taken by Mad Max. He does steal away the Gromp, as now the rest of the team are making a play. Dargo dashing in, Xmar turning around and dealing quite a bit of damage, but will flash away from the solar flare. The true shot barrage over the top, and the collateral damage is enough to pick up the kill.
Yeah, Dargo playing super aggressively there, even though he's outmatched by the MF at the moment, but he gets to play through his team. We saw a fantastic true shot barrage into that Graves ulti combos. He's pushing his lead even further.
Warizar going low stasis on the red buff. Will not take him down just yet, but Yoft's going to be jumping in, but Tay is there. End of the line does proc a little bit of damage, but they are going to start walking away from this. We do see Rochelle did crash into the mid, as Hypothesis able to take down the tier 2 in the bot lane, was definitely putting on a pretty strong split push there, and is actually starting to get a lot of levels. Level 13, 3 levels away from the dreaded 16.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Warizar's really good use of the stopwatch there, but there's a bigger threat at the moment. This Castin has unlocked 2 turrets in his bot lane now, and that in-hit pressure is going to be really important to pull not only Mad Max out of this top lane and potentially unlock some of this standing gold that's on the map, but if they don't try and face it, then they've got a really a looming threat on them, because Castin level 13 now, they know that ticking timer is going to activate at some point. At the same time with Mad Max also, maybe when he gets in his second or third item, he's going to start to become quite an overwhelming presence on the map. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this game is going to continue to evolve, because just look at Red Side's vision though. This fantastic usage of Blue Trinket it's really cool to see.
Indeed, and I'm not gonna lie, this next dragon feels kind of like the pinnacle of the game at the moment. It feels like it's building up slowly, getting closer and closer to that timer. 2 minutes 16, it's ticking down, and we'll see who can take the crown on that final Drake, or potentially the final Drake. Obviously, if it is picked up by Method Manus, it will go to more Infernals, and they definitely want that. Obviously, there's not many stats better than 4 Infernal Drakes with the soul.
Yeah, I think Mad Max is in a really difficult spot at the moment. But you're right. This Infernal is definitely very looming for D&W, because they know there's a lot of pressure on them. Luckily, they're in blue side. It's incredibly difficult for Yoft to try and make this steal, because he's playing on red side at the moment. So it plays as much to their comp as they can. One thing I want to know here, whilst we're looking at mid-game, we're looking at the potential Infernal turnarounds. Look at this MF build. The Lord Dom's just completed now. I talked about it on the Graves, but it's just as good here as well. Lord Dom's has the most effective armor pen value out of any penetration item past that 35 armor mark. So MF's going to be pumping out a lot of damage in this mid-game, and hopefully also a lot of damage onto important targets, because we can see Leona, Tabai's built, Graves, Tabai's built, Fiora, Tabai's built. So this is very I guess I should call it steel plated steel caps now. But
no, all the OGs know. If you're a real one, you know it's Ninja Tabi. It's all about the Tabi. But either way, we'll see Xmar take a decent amount of damage from Dargo there, so definitely not going to be untradeable, as Xmar does need to be a little bit cautious. Ezreal can become a pretty big problem if you take a few too mystic shots. As
I think we should take a moment here to look at how minimal Mad Max has been in this game so far. Single assist at the moment, and we talked about how this Fiora does so well into the Aatrox and this side lane pressure, but isn't really showing up too much. I'm hoping once she hits second item, she'll really come online. But fantastic vision, a clearance from D&W here. We're looking for this 4th Drake now, under a minute to go.
Indeed, and we do see the Aatrox starting to path down 22 seconds before the Drake will kick off, and they are starting to look for the plays. Yoff there just dodging out the center play, will keep himself alive. True shot barrage over the top as well, does miss, as we do see Hypothesis there jumping over the wall, setting up, trying to reduce some of that vision and trying to get themselves in a good position. They're forcing back the side of definitely not, and now Kata in a bit of a dangerous position here. It's going to go into stasis, but the team are not going to be able to help them out. That's a quick pick, and now it's a 4 versus 5. Will they be able to take the dive, or will this team of definitely not be able to survive? We'll have to find out, as the solar flare is used early on. Xmar trying to run away, but in goes Hypothesis. Golden will be the captain, and the quick pick there from the Graves, but he will drop as well. Both junglers have been taken down, so there is no smite for the Dragon. Maybe we see a steal from one of the laners from the side of definitely not, but Metamanus do have the priority.
True shot barrage has already been burned up, but you see this dancing is so important here. The Galio separates from the group. Really big pick from M2M here, and this is the catalyst for this lost fight here and the lost Drake as well. And we talked about how scary 4 Infernal Drake is going to look for M2M, and we're already seeing it begin here.
Indeed, and the first Dragon picked up. It's definitely going to feel like a bit of a relief for M2M. The Infernal Soul would have been absolutely mad, as we do see that play. Graves looked really dangerous. Talon jumped over, got immediately removed from the game, but they were able to turn that damage around and pick up the shotgun assassin himself. So it's definitely a question where setup is going to mean a lot. Admittedly, Kata definitely played that a little bit weird. His positioning was very off and then got caught, and they did pay that price. But we did see Baron being taken.
And this is, I think, quite a good point to be taking it. You don't really expect the Baron at the moment, but their DPS is going to be incredibly high. They have a tank in the position, but the blue trinket comes out, TP response. Let's see how this fight pans out.
Indeed, as we do see our Nexus coming around at the back, and in the Baron pit they are being kited in, and a from the Talon comes through. They pick up the kill onto the Talon himself, but the buff is not theirs. They manage to take it away from the hands of the NW.
Disgusting. No, that's such an early smite there, as we're going to see a replay on this. You can see, even with the blue trinket coming out, they choose to go for this fight anyway. They want to get the Baron as quickly as possible, but it's just too slow for them to take, even with this 4-man, because Galio just isn't in position. The TP is relatively late. At the same time here, you see here, such an early smite coming out right now, misses it, huge steal for Yoft, and even though he ends up falling, he's going to give so much space for his team. We already talked about how immense their possible scaling is. This Infernal Drake plus his Baron is going to create so much pressure coming on the next 3 minutes, and Talon, Castin now only one level away from that level 16 spike.
Indeed, the pressure around those smites, sometimes it's a bit too much and you can crumble. But in this game, you need to be ready to rumble, because you don't want to fumble the lead that DNW have managed to set up already. And we'll see if they can maintain this. So far, the last two objectives have gone the way of M2M, and they are definitely building themselves back into the game. They're now up about 1.5k in gold.
Yeah, very scary space to be in for DNW right now. They still have that Infernal Soul, looming on the next 3 minutes, but Baron's being pressured in right now. As soon as this mid turret is unlocked, it's going to be incredibly easy for Yoff to continue doing what he was doing in the first 15 minutes of the game, moving around the map, minimalizing vision, and looking for picks. And even though there's no real score outliers right now, I think we're seeing Loeb looking really big on that Graves. That steal is definitely not playing well. Some big pick from top lane.
Oh, man. Really good riposte, does not take the damage from Yoft, and now a big knockup from Kata is going to cause a lot of tower damage over to the side, but Xmar stepping forward helps out the damage. Yoft will pick up the kill onto the Galio, and they do manage to leave unscathed, but a very close play around that tier 2.
Yeah, I think M2M are just there with the rotations. They're the first people there, even with that Galio ulti being burned. They had Xmar there to back them up and find that damage, and honestly, that damage from the Earth looking huge. Solar flare maybe?
Hypo gonna try and get away with the level 16. It's just so short. It
doesn't matter. He can pressure as much as he wants. As Dark God looking for a solo kill.
Getting close, but here comes Yoff looking for the final bit of damage. Will pick up the kill. Xmar takes down the tower as well, but in goes Mad. He is looking for more. Does use a riposte to stay alive, and Tay jumping in to Lop is going to be able to take down Rorizar. It's a 1-for-1 so far. Tay trying to get close enough to Yoff. He's going to be slowed, and the center play just missing.
Yeah, I think that slowing pressure quite scary. They were looking for it, but the Nautilus ends up just being kind of odds and ends for this comp. You're seeing here the gold lead, even with the 2 kills, it's a 4k deficit now for DNW, and the Castin, I mean, you saw there briefly. Look at how quickly he moves around the map, especially if he's not playing for that damage on his ulti. If he's playing for the mobility, he can pressure basically whatever lane he wants, free of any potential counter engage, because of that mobility being so ridiculous.
Yeah, and talking about ridiculous, it's another dragon coming through. And the Infernal Soul is pretty ridiculous damage, but I don't know if DNW are going to be able to lock this one down, as the scaling is coming through. Yoff looking dangerous, so is Hypothesis on this Cassidin, and as you said, the mobility is crazy. He can kind of get around anywhere that he wants to on this map, so it could appear in some weird places. The flank is definitely one that you have to fear, as we are going to see the Dragon going to be spawning in 22 seconds now, expecting a big fight around this one.
Yeah, key things to be noting right now that the Ezreal's on this last Whisper. We're seeing 2 items from almost everybody. Lovis on the on the Lord Doms alongside with the Exmar here, so a lot of pen coming out from these 2 players in particular, as maybe a pick onto Mad Max.
Ooh, potentially in a bit of a rough spot here, but does have the hero's entrance, gets the knock up onto Yoff. Yoff's going to go down. Crucial Rush over the top, managed to pick it up. As Hypothesis trying to get away over the end of the line. Get over, and that's going to be a dash forward. Mystic Shot picking it up, but the Dragon already has gone down. Borazar trying to survive though, as the chase is on. Taunt goes through, and it's going to be another kill over to the Nautilus, given over to the Graves. And can they turn this into objectives? They didn't manage to get the Dragon, but can they get some towers?
We're seeing pings already. You want to see them convert this into unlocking as much standing gold as possible, as quickly as possible, as they're looking for this bot turret here, but we want to see hopefully a second or even a third turret unlocked on these death timers. As we're going to hopefully catch a replay of this, and you can see the pick of the Mad Max just not justified, as that heroic entrance so big for this turnaround.
Indeed, and there's just not really much you can do about the heroic entrance, plus the riposte giving Fiora that extra bit of time. The True Shot Barrage over the top, just the cherry on top.
Yeah, the True Shot Barrage and the Graves ulti just finding huge damage, and Dargod especially not being scared to flash forward there to find the kill onto the Castin to pick off this second, then leading to the third member is really big.
And we'll see if they can turn that into more. We've talked about how Method Madness have really had a huge positive outcome in the last 10 minutes of this game, but it's now maybe ticking back over to DNW. The gold lead has closed 500 between the 2 teams, but the Dragons are starting to stack. M2M now have 2, 1 away from the Infernal Soul for DNW.
I think you have to look at it from both sides of the coins, because whilst M2M are looking for the Spore Drake here, DNW, they had that space to give up those first 2 Drakes and still not be threatened by that ever-looming Dragon Soul. So whilst we're looking at the next 5 minutes here, we have to assess, well, maybe DNW will continue to look for trades instead of this Drake, look for another 1 fight instead of this Drake, look for the Baron even, to try and secure some of this standing gold on the map that M2M unlocked, earlier. And maybe try and find a little bit more pressure. Oh, big pick. Look at the damage.
Is going to be taking a lot, but turns it around. Hypothesis now in a lot of trouble. Will have to jump away. We do see Warazar caught out once again. Soulflare not going to catch him out, but Arnaxis joining the top side, maybe looking to turn this one on its head, as Yoft with the damage, able to get Kata pretty low. The knockup is going to hit Arnaxis as we see a pause mid-fight.
And I think the thing we got to look at briefly at the start of that fight was Mad Max's over aggression there, burning that ultimate a little bit too early onto Hypothesis. And when you're doing these back and forth trades of champions that have such high mobility, it's all about how much damage can you find without committing as least resources as possible. And because Mad Max burns the ulti, they end up being able to find hopefully a pick here, but we're seeing maybe a potential counter pick. But look at these teams, they're all rotating up. Hypothesis has TP. This could be a 5v5, and Baron is up. This could potentially be a huge play for them.
No, indeed, it does feel like a bit of a coin flip. Whoever wins this is getting the Baron. You know, it's happening, because everyone is up in the top side. We can already see Warazar, Exmar trying to make their way through, and the whole troop in the mid of this river. It's going to be the Ezreal, the Graves, and the Leona all walking through, as Mad Max are jumping back in. And Galio looks pretty low here, I will say, so I would expect him to be falling pretty soon, but we'll see if they can turn it around. And obviously, as you said, the TP might be coming through as well.
Yeah, every player is on key itemization as well. Look at the MF, IE third picked up, as we're going to see the fight here.
His hero's entrance there, going to give them a bit of time. Mad Max stays alive with the repulse, able to stay up, and Hypothesis has joined, but Graves doing a lot of damage there, but now getting pulled in, could be in trouble, picked up. The shotgun isn't going to save you today, as Tay trying to run away. The pause will come through from the rift, and we will have
it's just a spectator bug. We should be back in a moment, yeah.
And
just a little spectator bug, but you could see Hypothesis's damage there was so big, and the mobility as well, granting access, being able to basically scare Dargod off doing effective damage in that fight. And as 2 members down, junglers down, this should be a Baron here.
Agreed. As Dargod trying to get some poke over this wall, but although he is going to be able to do a lot of damage, unless your hypothesis, you're not particularly scared about falling to this Ezreal just yet. Anaxis should be able to tank up a lot of that damage, and this Baron is going down so quickly. It's going to be an easy buff for them to secure.
Surprised Hypothesis didn't try and find a pick into the Ezreal there, but yeah, they secure the Baron, and I mean, we saw how much pressure they were able to find off this first Baron. With the casting in such a strong state at the moment, we're going to be looking, especially, we see that Blighting Jewel already picked up. Once he's on that Void Staff, there's basically no player on the side of DNW who can really handle him. And we saw how strong he was into Mad Max, being able to burn the Grand Riposte so easily early on and force that successful fight for them. So, I mean, real thing, we're looking at DNW. How do they handle this casting? I think the best way to be doing is looking at nullifying as much of Hypothesis' side lane pressure as possible. Get Mad Maxa into a pressed lane so that he can play aggressively onto these turrets, and then just turtle up and wait for this Baron to roll over.
Well, it's a big question how to deal with Kassadin. Normally the answer is just ban it, but you can't ban it now. We're a bit late into that stage, so we'll have to find a way. Obviously, the easy answer, the simple answer would be just lock down Kassadin, but that is very much easier said than done, and it kind of requires him to get a pick, and right now, Method to Madness are playing quite grouped up. It is going to be pretty difficult to find him on his own.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of pressure come out from this Baron, and we're seeing you have to play this vision minimalization as they're making a pick and stack.
Ooh, Taylor able to get over the wall with the blast cone, though not going to go down. Hypothesis, so definitely lurking around. And Xmar with the damage, able to start pushing down. Fiora still has a base as well, did manage to pick up the tier 1 in the top side, but you definitely need to help out the squad because your base is being wrecked. The minions are doing quite a bit of damage, and they still have a minute and a half on this Baron buff.
Yeah, and I mean, DNW's jungle is lit up like fireworks at the moment. They're definitely going to unlock this first inhib here, and God, this is so scary now, because once this first inhib's unlocked, look at the pressure Hypothesis has in their side end. It gives their team the free access to pressure the other lane that Hypothesis won't be in, and potentially unlock all 3 inhibs here.
Yeah, and 3 inhibs is a death sentence. It really does end the game for you because those double supers coming through, it makes it very difficult for you to ever leave your base. And we've talked about the pressure on these objectives. This would be 3rd Dragon over to the side of Method to Madness if they can secure it, and they are in position to. Love trying to find some picks, but it is going to be the Leona Cords out here. They do take that kill easily, and now the Graves will fall. The Hero's Entrance gets the knockup on to the Talon, but it will not mean anything, as Dargod is going to be one of the last to survive, although Mad Maxor does pick up a kill onto the Nautilus, but that's not going to be game-changing. It looks like Method to Madness should be able to pick up this game right here, right now.
Yeah, the Leona, one of the tankiest supports that you can pick, just gets absolutely blown up there before she can even throw out a move. And that's such a successful fight for them because they make that first pick. And look at these comps, they're both very squishy. You always want to be making the first pick, and they take best advantage. And they pick up game 1. A resounding success for them, especially with the way they drafted. I thought the NW was the winner from draft there. Especially with the Graves being picked up and the Ezreal Leona. We saw that early game pressure, but man, this Talon and this casting really got some pop-off points.
Them Assassin, they're just very strong. You know, they're just very strong picks. There's not really much more you can say about it. I will also say, Ezreal at the end there tried to survive, just got absolutely destroyed by Kassadin. But that is just ADC in 2021. What can you say about it?
Yeah, very scary. I think real highlight points to be talking about there is even through Method to Madness's odd draft, we saw some very clear power picks. They play 2 really well. We talked about the casting level 16. They matched it. We talked about the MF Nautilus combo, and we saw how potent these picks were, especially in the mid game. Even though Warriors and Xmod looks a little bit lost early, that early pressure into the lane really helped secure a bit of a CS lead, and they unlocked that first turret. Yeah, I really liked the way they played their draft.
Indeed, and they played it how they had to. They didn't fumble too much in the early game. They were able to keep themselves in their game. I think they were like 2k gold down max, I think, at any point in this game. And because they were able to keep it close, they were able to allow the game to just keep ticking over. Then they got to that late game, they got strong. They kept Kassadin in the experience, and it just meant that there wasn't really a time where Kassadin was super far behind. He got to that level 16 very early, and then we all know what happens from then on.
Yeah, a fantastic counter pick, especially with the casting.
Indeed, as
I
I
was
believe that
muted, my
J7
bad.
is muted. Yeah.
Yeah, about that. But yeah, you definitely did not see that notification pop up about Worlds. Definitely better quality League of Legends here, I promise you. I even went to that Twitch channel and spammed our Twitch link until I got banned. But hey, it was worth a try. With that being said, though, vote for your MVP because we're going to have to determine an MVP of the series. So you can always only vote for the winning team, which makes it a bit unfair. But yeah, in the end, just means you got to try harder to win the game and not only to do good plays. So yeah, just win by bringing your team. Shine by bringing your team to victory. Yeah, we also have a look at the damage real quick here to see that Fiora was indeed not that far behind. But once again, like I mentioned, and Twitch said, we had a nice conversation about it, that yeah, in team fights, she's just not that useful since she is meant to be a duelist. And yeah, the second it gets to the 5-man, if she doesn't have access to the backline, she is really going to struggle. And Aatrox, I can only mention it over and over again. That dude is a tank, a damage dealer, and a frontliner in any means necessary. And that's just because of one item, plus his ultimate and his passive, obviously. But yeah, great champion design all the way. But other than that, let us know who you think was our MVP of the first series. As we're going to head over to Analyst Desk, since I think they have a few things to talk about. And yeah, let's get them in here. They already joined. Let's go. Perfect. I don't need to do anything today. That is perfect. Let's get over to you boys. Welcome, Liffy and Recollect. How did you enjoy the show from behind the scenes?
That was a cool game. Lovely to see. Really back and forth. Everyone had their scenes, their moments, and we were kind of sitting there until like minute 20, 25 or something around that line, and still discussing, okay, who's actually gonna win this? Great.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well,
it
we're
was a
gonna.
fairly close one.
Sorry, go ahead, Recollect.
No, you go, you go.
Oh, I was just about to say, let's get us right into the playoffs here, into the clips of what you have gathered for us. What do we need to look at? What has been collected by you guys behind the scenes? Let us know what is worth to point out.
Yeah, we got a couple of beautiful clips there amongst the set, and to me, the first major talking point was the team fight around the dragon, right, where there was the Galio pick that could have been honestly horrifying. It could have just been game ending had this fight been played a little bit differently. If we can bring that one up, because in my mind, when I saw this sort of situation break out, I went, okay, this is just an ace. Like this is horribly, horribly bad. If you are a fan of Definitely Not Washed Up, thankfully for them, they were able to turn it around. But just look at the flank that's coming through here from Hypothesis, sorry, on this Cassidin and YOFT. But unfortunately, they go a little bit too early, and it means that there is a temporary turnaround. However, if that coordination is slightly better, that's just an ace, and suddenly Method to Madness, who, at the time, it was about even. They were, it was very, very close at that point. If they get that ace, the game just blows wide open. However, it didn't matter. It was just the starting point of things to come as they were able to pick up that team fight win and the dragon.
Great. That was a great point. Go ahead, Liffy.
No worries. And as Recollect mentioned already, like they were fighting for their Infernal Soul, which definitely would have had a huge impact on that game. But overall, from there, it was kind of like, okay, do we get picks? Do the others get picks? Where do we go from here? What objectives can we take? And the next one was actually that Baron Steel, where Blue Side just tried to go for it, and you have the TPs come in. And Yoff, beautiful jump over the wall. He gets the Baron, and with that, even though they grab the kill on the Talon, they basically get nothing out of the investment of this Baron. And that's kind of the story for the late game, for the late mid game for me, for Blue Side. Like they try plays, they try to get stuff, and they always get kicked in the groin, basically.
And I think this was like the first moment as well, where the game became theirs. It was from this moment on that you have to, like, if we analytically look back at the game, this was the moment where Method to Madness were in control for the rest of the time. This Baron buff was instrumental in their win because it gave them all of the freestanding gold, gave them all the towers, and off the back of that, they were able to set up sort of solid fights like the next one. And give themselves enough of a gold advantage that they were able to just take over the game. And there was this unfortunate pause, right? But it looks fairly okay for Blue Side temporarily, but then the casting comes through. And here you've got an awkward situation where your backline cannot step up. And you've just got essentially a 4 versus 2 fight playing out with 3 people trying to deal with Hypothesis. And it's just not happening. It is not happening at all. And, that was where the casting was online. The damage was there, and there was nothing left to be done in this game.
Yeah, special shout outs to Hypothesis there for playing that fight so cleanly. I think the way you articulate your movement to make sure that you're both threatening backline and able to make pickoffs like that is so clean. It's so clean.
And
Yeah.
especially as well from that players, it came off the back of him almost getting picked. Fiora took them
Yeah.
very low. They based, then they TP'd back to just ruin their day.
And
It's
funny
a
enough,
nice
if I
bait and
may,
switch.
there was also actually a Hypothesis to call the pause since his PC was acting up. So yeah, he played a clean team fight, but he had to first calm the fires on his PC. But yeah, we're gonna get into the next draft here in a bit. What is it left on the time? Yeah, 1 minute 30 is until we get into the drafts. But yeah, anything else that we need to maybe adapt for the next series? I mean, you guys have seen, or actually all four of you guys can answer this question. You guys have seen how the game, how they play, how they intend to go with jungle matchups, for example, and what maybe is a necessary ban coming into this next series.
Cassidon.
I don't know if the casting itself was that scary, but I think you have to look at how DNW actually handled blue side, because they managed to get counter pick given to them in top lane, but they didn't really do anything with it. And I think given that space, you need to be doing more with your counter pick, especially in blue side. I think when you're looking at that as well, it's good to mention the Graves. The Graves came out in B1, and it did look good, but it didn't look excellent. It didn't look super threatening, I think, at any point in that game. Only really able to pick up individual picks. So, like, blue side, they get the pick again, so they can take blue side again. How are they going to make sure their draft is as impactful as it can be, like M2M did?
Sorry,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say the thing that stood out to me in this game is the fact that when you look at the two compositions, there are two specific scaling elements that have to be considered, right? You've got the Fiora and you've got the Cassidon. Those are the big scaling picks, and the idea is Fiora outscales the Aatrox in isolation, but Cassidon will just take over the game if you allow him to do anything. And it was odd to me to see that when you have a CC-based mid laner like something like Galio, who can very easily set up onto an immobile Cassidon pre-6, that we didn't really see a whole lot of punishment come through, especially when you have this very physical AD-based jungler in Graves. So if you're going to play against something like the Caston with a CC-based mid laner, gank it. Punish this thing. Don't let him get out of lane. It's the most illegal thing if a Cassidon is allowed to have a laning phase without really getting ganked properly once. That to me,
True.
like, and on top of that, go top. If you've got this Aatrox like Fiora win condition, get your Fiora going. They only went once or twice, but you need to punish this guy. Make it so that he can't breathe. If you're going to leave Castin open, you get your win condition ahead so far that you can't lose the game. And that was the big thing to me.
We're going to get into the draft here so we can actually see if they're going to hear us out and learn about what you have said already. Once again, the 4 picks coming through as we're going to swap you guys around. Swap-a-woo, swap-a-doo. There we go. Liffy and Recollect. Welcome to DNV. Oh my god. Definitely not washed up versus MTF. Let's go with that. For the second game, and as you can tell, it is 1-0 in favor of M2M. So Method to Madness are shining really good already in the first game of this best of 5. And yeah, let's walk us through these bands so far.
So the regular sort of pick band here, we've got ourselves the Bard, Tryndamere, Yuumi for the side of Method to Madness, and on the other side we've got the Graves and the Lucian. And talking a little bit about this, I mean, this does mean that that Misfortune pick is a priority option that we've got available to us, as well as the fact that Graves is banned away that was so strong last time around.
Absolutely. I'm still a little bit on the fence about the Misfortune for M2M because I really feel like they don't know how to play with it. And last game as well. Well, Xmar, he was there. Yeah, he did damage. Yeah, but did they play an MF comp? Did they work with that MF? Not at all. I don't think we've seen a single useful bullet time until the very last team fight. And it's kind of surprising for me that they keep picking her into their comp when they could do a lot better with things like maybe an Aphelios. Just give Axmar something that he's very, very comfortable on. But MF is picked up, and DNWU, they have to pick something against it. And should it be the Kai'Sa here?
Okay, so the Kai'Sa is really interesting because when you lock in Kai'Sa, you're very thematically forced now. You've got to go into a dive composition to facilitate Kai'Sa's low range and her ability to assassinate the backline, and pairing it with something like Hecarim makes a lot of sense. You've got the Onslaught of Shadows to set up and give yourself that AoE fear, so she can easily get into the backline. However, the AD carry matchup is a difficult one, and if paired with a CC-based support like the Leona or the Nautilus we've seen from Method to Madness, could be very scary. And that Viego hover It's sort of fallen out of the world's meta a little bit, but was picked up earlier today.
Oh, there it is. And Method to Madness, they've seen a bunch of Viego in the last semifinals, so they know how that champion rolls. They know at least how to deal with it, and now they have it on their side. And the Aatrox lock in once again. Do you think this time around they can punish the Aatrox properly? DNWU? They should have some options here.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on how they want to facilitate this game. Because if you leave this Kai'Sa lane in isolation, it will be a tough one. So I wouldn't be surprised to see um, potential movement towards the playing towards that bottom side of the map if needed be. And as such, you just play a safer matchup. However, this Camille, known to be another counter matchup to the Aatrox, does make me think we're going to be seeing them play towards the top side this time around. That is going to be really dependent on the mid lane matchup. So expect to see a lot of mid bans here come through in the next phase.
Absolutely. You brought that Camille ban, that Camille pick up already last game when we were talking backstage about the Aatrox, but this time around it finally gets locked in. We see the Mumu taken away. Absolutely something you don't want on the board if your enemy still can't pick that up together with the MF, even though M2Ms have yet to show to play around it. And once again, we see a TF ban come through, as you mentioned. There were a lot of mid-focus bans last time around, and this time around, well, Kassadin might be on the list here.
Yeah, I mean, the Cassidin ban is really going to be dependent on what you want to take here if you are on the side of Method to Madness. Now, as you don't really want to blind pick the Cassidin here on the blue side, and given the current setup, I'm expecting to see just the support pick come through, probably the Leona come through here on the red side, and or potentially
Ooh.
Nautilus. It really depends on what you want to give over, really. And I would expect the Leona here because to me, Misfortune Leona is significantly better than the Misfortune Nautilus lane. I think it's a little bit easier for the setup to work out with the Solar Flare than with sort of any of Nautilus available stuff. So I would be surprised to see if that one's given over in exchange for the Nautilus, but it really depends on how you want to route this one. However, Rise pick blind mid, very scary stuff here being locked in early by Definitely Not Washed Up. And
Yep.
this catches me by surprise quite a lot because I think there's quite a bit you can play into this Rise. And Caston's still open, which could be okay.
Kassadin would do okay early on. You also have the Viego, so whatever gets paired into the mid lane on the side of M2M, they can put a lot of gank pressure early on the mid lane of DNWU, and that Rise is definitely not going to have a fun time. On the other side, we have that Hackerim locked in, so on their side, they can go for some nice ganks with a Rune Prison. And speaking about gems,
I don't know how I
on there?
feel about that. I feel like this
I don't
composition
know either.
again is like we have Misfortune, but she's actually not on our team. This is Cheerleader
Yeah.
Misfortune, ladies and gentlemen. We got Cheerleader Misfortune in finals because this combo is not good, really. I mean, I guess the idea is that you can survive the Kai'Sa Hecarim burst and then you just turn around fights. But this is
Okay.
definitely a 4v5 composition being built up here from Method to Madness.
I like the Lissandra to an extent because you're facing up against a Kai'Sa, Hecarim, Camille. They all come at you hard. They want to dive you. They want to get into your backline. Lissandra just stands there, presses W, presses Alt, does a bunch of damage and completely disables the engage. But on the other hand, I'm gonna be very honest with you. Aatrox, Taric, not necessarily the two picks I'm looking at in terms of massive damage output, and we
then
have a
Lulu
Lulu.
lock-in. Yeah, I hate this draft. Like, this is crazy. This is really bizarre stuff to see
Excuse me?
through.
World's meta? What?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, the weird thing is that you've essentially got two compositions that don't necessarily fit their own themes that well. I mean, Method to Madness, their entire composition is going to get murdered by Healing Cut. That I can say for free. But I still think it's slightly better because of the side of Definitely Not Washed Up. This Kai'Sa Lulu has big anti-synergy due to the nature of Kai'Sa wanting to dive the backline. So unless we're going to see a Kraken Slayer Kai'Sa play front-to-back team fights, you're not really getting Lulu value due to the way in which, Whimsy is going to work with the attack speed steroid as well as the E shield damage and stuff. On top of that, everyone else is going to be diving away, so no one can actually stay with Lulu. So realistically, you have a trio dive comp with a Lulu that can't help anyone, and it's probably just going to get murdered.
I'm
1
kind of
second,
feeling
though,
that the
real
Lulu
quick.
isn't.
Recollect, we need you in the spectator so we can start the actual channel selection. There we go. Let's go.
I'm sorry. I thought
No
Method
worries.
Madness might
Just
want to
didn't
use
want to
support.
interrupt your
My
point.
apologies. No. I've just
Okay.
figured I'd give them the recollect buff. It's okay. Anyway,
Oh well.
yeah, their loss. Anyway,
Maybe now they can recollect themselves a little bit, and then
Yeah.
we'll keep
Okay,
on going with this one.
that was the second one of today. I'll let that one slide as well. But like I said, 1 per game is allowed. Well, yeah, let's get into the action here. Oh,
You better kick me off the broadcast now then. Before
it's all over.
yes.
yeah. No, but
Hello, Gerald.
to get my point back to the Lulu, I really think that she's more of a dive facilitator in this case, right? You have the wild growth knockup that you can chain into the engage. You can put it on a Camille nicely. You can put it on the Hecarim when he runs in. You can even put it on a Kai'Sa that just goes deep. And even though that's really, really damn risky, you could do it. So I think that's a little bit more the tendency towards the Lulu. But on the other side, what are you going to do with that Lissandra sitting there? How well is the Lissandra going to get through lane so she actually can have that big impact in the team fights?
Yeah, I think Method to Madness. I think that they're in a really good spot as the Aatrox side. I believe it's Method to Madness with the Aatrox draft. I think that they're in a really strong spot here just purely because of the fact that what can the other composition do against them aside from dive? It's like, I guess the argument could be made that you go the 1-3-1 route and you go Rise Camille and outscale side lanes, right? But then you have an interesting situation where you can't really disengage super well against the enemy 3 core. So your 3 is probably going to get engaged on permanently, which becomes very, very scary. And on top of that, I actually think that you can collapse quite freely as this Lissandra Misfortune Tarek pair, as they should be able to realistically get priority quite easily as the game goes on later and later. So, whilst the early laning phases for, on the bottom side, that Kai'Sa matchup, that Lulu matchup, the double range versus range melee matchup is winning, it's going to be a little bit tougher as the game goes on. However, they do have that scaling side lane advantage, so it's not all doom and gloom. They do have the ability to get this Camille ahead and just snowball the game disgustingly well.
Yeah, I think snowballing is the right point to bring up, right? Because we have a lot of pick potential, so to say, on the side of DNWU as well. The Hecarim is really fast on point to get someone to pick someone off who's rotating after a turret, or to get a fast gank. You mentioned that 1-3-1 to the side lanes. Together with the Camille, if she's answering one of those lanes, just pick someone off and rotate back over, just completely stomp a team fight, things along those lines. And overall, in this meta, I love to point it back and throw it back towards the early game, because you snowball so hard if you get an early lead and know what to do with it. And that might come in very, very clutch for both teams, actually, because I do think that Viego and Hecarim are doing pretty well for themselves early on, and already pointed out Rise, decent gank assist, Lissandra, decent gank assist, same thing in the top side. And yeah, the only thing that's a little bit off the grid there is the MF Tarek bot lane, honestly, for me.
Yeah, I mean, the MF Tarek bot lane is going to be an interesting to watch out for. I mean, an argument could be made, the idea you're running this Misfortune Tarek is just, please try and dive us. Try and be proactive against us.
Yeah.
You're not going to succeed. We have Cosmic Radiance. We have a significant rage advantage over you. We have Make It Rain and Bullet Time for wave clear and to stall you if you try and dive. So go for it. Give it a go. And you just play the lane to neutralize. And then from there, you can allow your Viego to play towards his CC lanes. You play it towards the Lissandra, who can easily set up with W, set up with ulti, the Frozen Tomb, and just delete this Rise from level 6 onwards, or even beforehand with that W, as I mentioned. Go towards the top lane, get your Aatrox rolling, because we saw when the Aatrox gets rolling, it can be very hard to deal with as the game goes later and later. Even though, he does get outscaled in this matchup. If you get him so far ahead that the scaling doesn't matter, who cares? So maybe that's the idea behind that too. Having said that, though, they do have these team fighting elements, and if you can get people low enough, we all know that the Reset King, the Ruined King, could be absolutely devastating.
Yeah, Viego might come in clutch. We'll see to that. But Yoft has been playing a fantastic semifinal today, already off to a decent start as well, since they did manage to win that first game. But something that I love to talk about in terms of comms in general is just ease of execution, right? And if I look at the comm from DNWU, it's a full dive. You just press one button each and you go ham, or you go home, but hopefully ham in their case. But on the other side, it's what is this? Is a front to back fighting. We kite you and immune your damage at the right time, and you have to even line that Tarek ult up like 2 seconds in advance before they actually dive you to actually get the immunity and so on and so on. Maybe you can do something 1-3-1 split push, etc., etc. That's a lot of maybes, and do you play this right conditions for me? So I'm not sure if that's gonna work out. If they do manage to snowball the lanes, then that's definitely no problem, I'd say.
Should we get predictions then? We've got ourselves a couple seconds
boy.
now until we go in. So I want to hear who you think is gonna take the W in this one then.
Okay,
Of
so
these two teams.
last game I thought M2M botched the draft like crazy, and they still managed to win this one. This time around, I again think their draft isn't as good, especially with that MF Tarek. So I'm just gonna say they're gonna win this one again.
Lose draft, win game. Is that's the strat? That's the strat.
100%.
I think Method to Madness can definitely take this one if they are able to get that early game execution. However, as we mentioned before, the Camille is always going to be a factor. There is a clock in the side lane that is always going to be ticking down, and it could be ticking to destruction if you are not careful inside of Method to Madness. So, we'll have to keep an eye on the sideline situation because that Rise Camille later on can be scary. But the team fighting power of Tarek, Misfortune, and Viego, as well as that CC that Alessandro can bring to the table, could be enough to flip this one on its head. And we will, as I say, have to wait and see how that one goes. Looking at the runes of choice, nothing particularly surprising here, striking my fancy. Though it is going to be the Comet variation of the Misfortune, which might mean we might be looking at Lethal TMF this time around.
Oh, you can always hope, right? Nonetheless, we are getting into the game. M2M, 1 up in this series. They're looking to make it 2. So we'll see if that one actually works out for them. Classic 5-point defense here from both teams. No fancy schmancy early invades. We have T on the Lulu versus Varizar on the support Tarek. And I gotta be quite honest, even though that Tarek confuses me, Varizar has been playing absolutely fantastic. So if someone's gonna make it work, then it's him.
Yeah, I think a secret MVP performance on that Nautilus the last time around looked very, very solid in my opinion. And I'm excited to see what does come of this Tarek pick. Perhaps this is the secret cheese, the secret special sauce that they need to give themselves a draft advantage here in game number 3. And last time around it was the Kassadin that we weren't expecting. This time around, this Lissandra, this Tarek, and I'm excited to see what these picks do bring to the table because Lissandra Rise isn't something we tend to see a whole lot of now. I think she's sort of fallen out of favor, but I think with it is an easy setup tool. And the last time around, Method to Madness, they avoided those setup situations in the mid lane. This time, they're the ones that have to force them.
Absolutely, but we'll first get the jungler starts rolling, of course. A little bit of a flip side start, both starting red, so we'll see probably early top or mid ganks from Yoft and maybe early bottom attention from Lefögen. But we'll have to wait and see for a moment.
Yep, absolutely, and we're just going to see a little bit of trading here in the bot side. That's unfortunate there for Warazar. Good attempt there to land that dazzle set up there onto Tay. If that does hit, obviously it's a massively winning trade, but in the meantime, it's not that surprising to see this Lulu have the push. It's the double range versus range melee matchup, and Tay.
Ooh. Yeah, Warazar looking for some punishment there with the stuns. Exhaust actually comes out. Dargot can trade a little bit of damage back, but doesn't quite get the passive proc, which is a lot of the early game Kai'Sa trading potential in there. But overall, Tay take some shots, so they managed to push the wave in. And other than that, top push from Anaxis. Maybe, just maybe, Yoff can get something like a lane gang going.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be an option, but with the summoners going down, I mean, I actually think this is going to be slightly favorable to the side of DNWU, just because of the fact that, to me, the exhaust being a much more defensive tool than something like the heal, and having that ignite still available for Tay to cut that healing going to be very solid there. However, surviving that early situation and keeping the CS fairly even, it's a great job there from the side of Xmar to keep this one in position.
Yeah, and I love that our Naxos is this time around pushing his advantage a little bit more, getting those early trades in on the Aatrox. Actually forgot the champion name just now. Oh, as Verizar goes for another stun, but nothing more than a little bit of damage trading, and there is Yoft in the top side. Oh,
Yeah, I love
let's see
this
a
slow
gank
push
rolling in.
situation. It's great stuff here from the side of Method to Madness. They got 3-man here. It could be trouble.
Oh, Yoff tanking the wave. The Lissandra coming in. TP to the rescue. Maybe the mist is coming in. The root lands. Beautiful burst. The first blood comes in, but Yoft under the turret actually goes back in with a hookshot. And that's a Rise in a lot of trouble without too much mana to work with. But yeah, no redive on that Rise. They go out very happy with that first blood and seal the deal on that one. Ooh, they might be running into love again.
Yeah, it's amazing tower dive there from the side of Method to Madness to keep this one in control. But as you say, we could have trouble full of Fuga.
No, never mind. He is just looking to run away. Doesn't really want to go for that 2v1, but he has backup. There's his Rise, there's his Camille. The TP though, this time around, it's the TP from M2M, and it's suddenly a 3v3, and Lurfing in the middle of that one, traded 1-for-1, but Yoft has the resets. That's the big power of the Viego, while our Nexus gets chunked fairly low. That's another kill going over as Camille falls once more. ManMaxer not having a good time, and Yoft gets the double off the hookshot off the wall there. That's 202 for the Viego, and that's the early power we were looking for from M2M.
Yeah, Method to Madness, they flipped this one perfectly around there, utilizing their numbers advantage early on to pick up a couple of extra kills there. And they've already developed themselves a nice 1,000 gold lead, but look at this dive bot side.
Ooh, dangerous. The heel gets taken out by the turret. Dargon is committing. He is committing. And he gets sent home without anything. You get nothing, sir. Good day.
Oh, not like this. It's gone from bad to worse if you're a fan of Definitely Not Washed Up, because the players are looking exactly that. It's unfortunate. A 6-1 kill score, and the attempt comes through there onto Warazar and Xmar, but unfortunately, that turret can heal quite well, and you didn't quite have enough healing cut to deal with that one. The damage isn't there, and they end up losing 2 members in a really unfortunate play there on the bot side, and it means out this Misfortune, who is building this lethality, look at that Serrated Dirk Eclipse setup, is going to be slightly more snowballed. And if we get a chance to look at the gold here amongst the players, pretty much every single member on the side of Method to Madness has an advantage over their opposition.
Absolutely, and that is what we pointed out in the draft is going to be the deciding factor for Method to Madness, because we have that scaling in the top lane, we have the scaling in the mid side with the Rise, and once again, ManMaxer gets chunked out quite heavily. Our Naxos with that Chain Whip completed, definitely trading in favor for him still, and overall, well, that top lane not going too well, because that Camille, 25 CS, that's what, almost 15 CS down after that wave. Jesus.
It's a rough situation. On subject of rough, Tay takes a little bit of a tough situation there on that trading pattern. And keep a look at YOFT moving towards that top side again, trying to redive, but it's red here by Lufgir.
Yep. Lufgir jumping over to the Crux, but that's a jungler standoff. The big thing here is that Viego is already level 6, so you can't really fight him as Lulu gets stunned up. T gets taken out, at least almost. The exhaust goes down. Dargod is gonna be very sad and lonely. The double up secures the double kill. Oh, you hate to see that if you're laning against MF.
Yeah, double up does exactly what it's meant to do and just deletes the members there from the side of DNWU. And at this point, this bot lane situation is starting to run out of control. I mean, on the top side, we got a little bit more action, but it's just neutralizing. However, ManMaxer
Yep, both have ults now, so Mad Maxer gets hooked back in, the Hexagon Dematic comes out, and that's a lot of damage on the Aatrox, or at least the Viego gets taken out. Sorry about that one, Lefhagen can't really compete with our Naxus there in his old form, but it's a 1-for-1, so I'm pretty sure that DNWU is gonna be somewhat happy with that one.
Yeah, however,
follow-up gank, we're getting no break here whatsoever. That's a very lonely Rise, the Glacial Prison's gonna seal his doom. He's gonna be set on ice to chill a bit.
Yeah, there's nothing left to be done here for the side of DNWU, especially not in the mid lane. Otti goes down in quite a brutal fashion there, just gets CC'd up. The Realm Warp cannot take you to safety, and the biggest problem with that play on the top side isn't just the fact it's a 1-for-1. You lose so much CS if you're on the side of Mad Max. I mean, look at the trading here on the top side. It's a 20 CS lead at 8 minutes into the game, which is brutal here in this Camille matchup.
And that's kind of the point. Like, if you're 8 kills down 4k gold at 8 minutes, I mean, we haven't seen objectives yet. No Herald or a Dragon taken down, or turret platings, at least too many secured. As our Nexus goes for the next trade, that's a lot of damage. Jesus, that's a lot of damage on the Aatrox. Barely gets out with the hook shot as OT goes in for some damage on the Rise, and there is the Rune Prison gank support potential. And they finally get something back, but Yoft is here, doesn't quite land the stun, and they have to back out without being able to trade back anything. And I was gonna ask, like, with such a deficit, what are DNWU gonna do to get back into this?
I mean, you've got to make plays with numbers advantage at this point. You're not winning those 1v1s, those 2v2s around the map just because of the nature of the gold deficit they're suffering from. And so they've got to be willing to rotate around the map and make plays happen for themselves, because if they leave themselves in these isolated matchups, let's just look at them for a second, because 2 members on the side of Method to Madness already picking up their first items. The Leandri is coming through here from Hypothesis. Oh, bye-bye.
Beautiful Yoft all by himself. He did not expect the gang squad. The Heartbreaker comes through. Shadow. Oh my god, the Hecarim ult doesn't follow up. Hypothesis, though, he's a little bit too close for that one. Gets taken out. Not quite in range to get too many tower shots in, but bot side. More damage on the Lulu. Tay gets taken out. And with that, well, you traded one in the mid lane. You could trade one back on the bot side.
Yeah, I mean, Method to Madness bot lane looking really solid here in this one there. Essentially just winning the 2v2 disgustingly hard now. The Misfortune already having that Eclipse means that Xmar can do plenty of damage, and the setup is coming through here from Warizar, and it's quite surprising, really, because you wouldn't expect this Taric to have such an easy time ready to land this setup onto these double-range bot lane, but he's able to do it consistently thanks to the Make It Rain slow and just overall solid play coming through here from the bottom side of the map. And you know, as we mentioned before, though, if you're on the side of definitely not washed up, you need to make plays with the numbers advantage, and that's what they do mid lane. They look for YOFD in their jungle, end up catching him out using that Rune Prison, and whilst he does get away, it means the Hypothesis gets caught instead, and you get yourself a pick. So I want to see them keep making these kind of plays and be proactive. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, but try to create situations where you can flourish.
Absolutely, and I think there's definitely some potential to do that off the back of that Realm Warp from the Rise. Maybe show up top side, take out that Aatrox, but for the now, it's going to be once again in the mid line. There is OT with more CC, Realm Warp gets used, but Warizar is there, so they back out for the moment. Not quite sure what is lurking behind that bush. And with that, Hypothesis gets out once again.
Yeah, but the biggest problem with this play here is the fact that Dargot has blown the Killer Instinct, and that means now you're in a situation where you're lacking one of those ultimates for your own lane in the bot side. It's okay if you gain some sort of advantage, but if you don't, you struggle. However, look bot lane. Xmar is about to get collapsed on really badly by 2 members.
Yeah, that's a poor
TP?
old MF all by herself. Double TP actually invested here from M2M. Maybe they can turn this around. Hypothesis goes for the pick on Tay. The Lulu flashes away and should be able to zippy to safety. At least it looks good. And now, well, M2M, they invested a lot to keep Xmar from dying here. Beautiful Herald in the mid lane, but they're not really going to get anything out of this.
No, they get a couple of flashes and some plates, but not really what you would have wanted out of that play. However, they do keep their AD carry alive. I suppose you do get to deny that shutdown bounty, so that's nice. However, they go for the elongated play. Look at this.
Oh, beautiful bullet time. That's a lot of damage. Yoft and Varizar do not know mercy, and T is taken out as well. It's a double kill in the bot lane. Top side doesn't even get any tower pressure, and all in all, DNWU, they're looking sad. Even sadder with every passing minute.
Yeah, great rotation there from the side of Method to Madness. Yes, the initial play with the double teleports didn't work out, but the elongated play did. They utilize their extra numbers in the bot side to make that dive effective. They get the kills that they want. They get themselves first tower gold, and now suddenly there might be a counter attempt here from the side of Definitely Not Washed Up.
There's a dive attempt for you, with Löfbergen going in, big damage on our Naxxas, and there is the onslaught of shadows, securing the kill for Mad Maxer. And finally, they trade something back, but once again, M2M on the roll, already taking out that tier 1 mid turret to trade some gold back and, well, get their advantage bolstered up a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think we also need to talk about how the bot lane for Method to Madness, there rotates towards the top side as well off of a reset, meaning you can't even siege down the entire tower on the top side because the wave clear has come through, so, oh, bye take.
Oh, no.
Anyway, so the rotation does end up coming through, and it means that you can get yourself now the top tower pressure thanks to your bot side. The Hypothesis.
On the one side there is Tay, on the other side there is Hypothesis, and that is going to be a deadly Sandra. That fight is going to be pretty bloody, though barely taking out the Hecarim here. Yoft once again on the case on that Viego, absolutely devastating with the double kill. And that's the resets coming in there, otherwise Löfbergen probably would have had the damage to finish that one off, and poor OT. Man, that Ryze doesn't take a break, or doesn't get a break.
And it seems like you're not going to get one either, because here comes Dalgod.
Oh, beautiful Killer Instinct over the wall there, back to Varizar. Absolutely fantastic play.
Yep, great stuff there. The only real way out of that situation was to utilize that defensive option within the Killer Instinct, and it's well done there from Dalgod. However, YFT might be overstaying here, because Mad Maxer can come to collapse if he wants to.
Yeah, they might not be aware of the Camille. They do have Arnaxas in the sides there on the Aatrox, but it's a bit late. The Ram Warp comes in. There's OT for some damage, but they first take out Mad Max, so that's the Camille down. Löfbergen in the middle of the fight as Tay falls on the side. You have trying to flank and gets the kill on the ADC. Löfbergen not able to do anything. It's gonna fall. It's a triple kill for the Viego as he goes in to claim another one. Make that 4 on the board, please. It's a quadra kill for Yoft.
And what we didn't talk about was the power of the Viego Taric combo. The dazzles are beautiful, but the resets are even more pretty, because YOFT, Yoft is looking beautiful in this one. He's able to reset multiple times throughout the fight, and those resets turn everything around. Was so low on several different situations there, but was able to flip it around thanks to the stolen away Camille. And now Mad Maxer looking for a play towards the bot side, but here comes Warzar.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. Poor Tay once again caught out. And you can really see like the microcosm of this game. Once again, they try to go for plays, DNWU. They try to do things as they get completely mopped up on the bot side here. They just don't have the damage, they don't have the gold or anything similar to the plays they're actually going for. And M2M, they just laughing and taking whatever they can get.
And it feels like, to me, the snowball started at minute number 10, and it has not stopped since. There hasn't been a moment in which DNWU has been able to slow it down, and Dalgod's in trouble.
Yep, that's Exmar going in. Oh, Wild Growth may be able to turn this around. Dalgod actually has a little bit of damage, but Exmar says, okay, yeah, never mind. I'm a flash for this kill, but OT maybe can turn this around. Varizar once again with a beautiful stun, and there's Mad Maxer on the backside. That's a dead misfortune. Big shutdown going over to the Ryze, but the fight is not over yet. Arnaxos joins the fray. Löfbergen trying to keep Tay alive a little bit longer, but Yoff picks up the kill and the reset on the Lulu. That's gonna be some glitter lances for him. Maybe he can follow up with a heartbreak here, but nope, they run into Hypothesis, and if you're looking for an escape route, that's a bit cold on that path there.
Yeah, We might be missing fortune, but unfortunately you're missing your lives. And DNWU, they are able to pick up the 1, but they trade off essentially 4 members for it. It's really not going to be worth. Yes, you get the shutdown, but the amount of gold influx going over to Method to Madness. I mean, let's just look at the game for a second. This is a 14,000 gold lead at 17 minutes.
Yep.
This is
That's,
disgusting stuff from Method to Madness, and it really goes to show how good these players are. But here comes the Realm Warp.
Another play attempt here from the NWU. They find our Naxos all by himself, but look at this Aatrox go. He is so tanky, he has so much damage, but that Ignite is dirty. Tay lights him up and takes him out. And with that, finally, you mentioned they need to go for these number plays. They need to catch people off guard, and they finally get something for it. But M2M already looking to retaliate on the top side.
Yep, I love the macro decision here from the side of Method to Madness. They move up towards the top side, get themselves that free tower, as they know that all the members are towards the bot side. And luckily there for the side of DNWU, there was no World Ender available there for the side of Anaxus. If that was available, it could have been very scary. But in all honesty, the real talking point here is Yoft. This Viego pick is disgustingly ahead, and Lofergen might be in trouble.
Yeah, that's a Lissandra going in for the ult, and once again, the gold power is just gonna come through as Lofergen and Oti are just gonna get completely rolled. Yoft still looking for some more here, but he's gonna back off now.
Yep, nothing wrong with a good old-fashioned wallet whacking if you're in this situation as Method to Madness. Is 1 double up just for half your health. Goodbye, Tay. A little bit low, and the Herald being dropped means you've got to feel like the inhib is about to drop, and Method to Madness, they might not stop there.
And if you were wondering about why they don't go for Baron, hey, ladies and gentlemen, that one is 1 minute and 10 seconds off of spawning. We don't even see a third Drake in this game as the bullet time joined in as the Herald takes down the first Nexus turret, and we might get another fight here. Mad Max are looking for the flank, and our Nexus trying, of course, to prevent that, but where is the follow-up? Where's the wallet whack? It's 30-8 kills, not looking good. The Tarek engage, not gonna land, but that's a dead Hecarim right there. The Lulu knockup does nothing, and this is the turnaround that M2M was looking for. Yoft absolutely is legendary. He has earned that with the 12 kills this game, and you can't really comment anymore on this one. That is absolutely crushing right now for DNWU. They're gonna chase down the Rise and take the Nexus.
I mean, if you're a DNWU fan, you've just got to go into the locker room and you just got to go and rethink this game. You've got to just forget it happened, reset, because here comes the TP attempt.
Oh no! Oh, that would have been so nice. That would have been so nice.
It would have been fun.
Play. Yeah, clutch play to finish off the game with it, but it is not supposed to be like so many other things this game. DNW, they have to take the L, but my god, M2M, they're looking absolutely fantastic today.
Yeah, M2M, they took over this game. They absolutely steamrolled this one. I think that one ended before Baron should spawn. That's incredible to me. Or slightly after, sorry, 2 seconds. But it was an incredible game there for Method to Madness. However, if you are a fan of Definitely Not Washed Up, you have to just pretend this game didn't happen. That's the best you can do. It was an absolute blowout as the game went later. So there's not a whole lot you can, talk about in terms of the later aspects. I think you just pretend it didn't happen. You go straight back to the drawing board and pretend that this is just a best of one. Just 3 best of ones. You got to take the win.
Yeah, kind of.
Nice. Okay, I keep forgetting I'm muting myself in between games. But then I'm thinking, wait, did I unmute it or not? But yeah, that was actually an interesting game. Not gonna lie, that was a bit of unexpected stuff coming through, since we have our M2M and DNU in the finals, but then this looked a bit one-sided, but maybe it's just Draftive coming in. You guys were a bit, weirded out by the comps. I was also a bit not sure what's going on here when it comes to compositions. Maybe we just move past this game. Everybody has once in a while this kind of game where you just lose it right off the bat. So yeah, that's not too bad, but you can still get back here if you have a nice draft in the next game. But this just confirms that blue side is just stronger, because M2M definitely did look stronger on the blue side. So our win wish is still correct, Mr. Liffy. But yeah, other than that, we really hope for mental reset here. Definitely believe still, and definitely not washed up, that they are indeed not washed up. And yeah, maybe the reverse sweep is coming in. I'm already queuing up the music here for the what's it called again? I keep forgetting the name.
Silver Scrapes.
Silver Scrapes. There we go. They're already queued up in the background. But yeah, let's hope that we don't get Twitch banned for that. But it looks like we have our next analyst desk coming up here. So as you guys are still voting for MVP, I'm noting them down. It's again Warriors are for second game as well. He is indeed very much winning by the MVP votes. And yeah, I think big credit to him. He didn't die a single time this game. And yeah, we'll head is look at what our beautiful casters have to offer. Mr. J Wheel and Mr. Oak, welcome back to the screen, the big scene, and the live stream. Let's go ahead with what did you take away from this game?
Well,
Pretty one-sided.
yeah, it definitely felt like early game kind of won. Some interesting plays from DNW with some of the early game dives and stuff, and then from then on, basically Method to Madness were just able to take the game and never lost the control.
Yeah, you'll see. Hopefully, when we pull up this first clip here, you'll see how staggering M2M able to find a lead through these kind of larger misplays. It's okay, take your time, don't need it yet. And it really was through DWN kind of misplaying. I like major misplays alongside with quite interesting drafting, I'll say. Probably from both teams, to be honest, but there were some key picks let away, like the Viego. But we are going to pull up the first clip here. And I think the staggering thing to look at is already look at the 4-kill lead in top side, right? And I think they were already feeling the pressure, and that's why they went up for this. But this is such a poor miscalculation. And immediately after this double kill that MF picks up here, they get another 2 kills with just a clean 2v2 outplay. And that's the worry of making these, okay, well, one side of the map is losing. I'm just going to make a brash decision and try and create a lead by myself. You're in a 5 setting. You're not allowed to do those gross miscalculations. And that's why this game ended up being such a stomp, because it wasn't just like clean 5's mechanics from M2M. It was also huge mistakes by DWN.
Yeah, and it's just unfortunate. Like, obviously, when you get behind, it's really hard to get back into the game. And the way the comps were set up, it works out really well for Method to Madness. Obviously, Misfortune is a ridiculous champion when they do get ahead. And as you said, the 4 kills that went over, I believe, Oak, you might have a second clip, if I'm not mistaken, to talk through before I get into the last
I think
one.
we can just go ahead and straight roll it up because I want to talk about this fight. It is unfortunately a bit of a lengthy clip. So we're going to see 2 members down already, and we see this basically 24-6. They're hugely down in kills, but we see repeatedly fights continue to happen. Over aggression flashes forward, and this kind of adds on to my point where it's like people are just making mistakes. And we see they try with the TP, and they actually end up picking up a really big shutdown here, but then extended continued fighting. They don't really seem to have a clear idea of what they want to be doing with these individual picks. They get one shut down, but it leads to 4 in return. And look at that Baron timer. Baron's coming up in 20 seconds. It's a complete, it's just macro-wise and 5s-wise. It's like, why are you making these decisions at this timing? Why are you not more clear on what your defined goals are when you're behind? And that's why I think that's a really exemplary fight for how this whole game looks.
Yeah, indeed. It's just a really strong showing. And as you said, like, when you're behind, while you keep taking these fights, you're just giving them more and more gold. And you just saw the Misfortune picking up 2 kills before they went down the Tarek, able to keep them alive for so long. And then it all ends up in what the final clip will show, which is just, you get so far behind that you can't win these fights. They're walking out of the base. They've just managed to take some of the inhibs, and now they're going to be looking to try and all in this. It's a bit of a desperation play, and it just doesn't go their way. It's an easy pickup for Methods to Madness, and they just dismantle the team because they just don't have the damage. They don't have the items. They don't have the experience to take on this fight. And even though they may have had a better positioning, it's never going to go their way.
And I think this really speaks actually to how M2M did decide to draft, because we saw Lissandra quite late in the draft, and Lissandra really does serve as a very specific counter draft towards these single target dive comp that we saw from DWN. So you see the Lissandra come out, and it not only does, even in a neutral game state, it would do a fantastic job of shutting down the engage options with Kaiser, Ulti, Hecarim, and Camille. And when they're that fed, it just looks unstoppable.
Indeed. And It's got to be a bit of a mental reset. I know Recollect said it before. It's that sentiment of you kind of just got to forget that this one happened. You got to move on because if you dwell on the past, it could tilt you for the next game, and then the next game goes badly. You don't have any more chances. You have to win the next game, or it is all over. Method Man is looking to close this one out 3-0 potentially in this next game.
Yeah, and we're gonna get ourselves into draft pretty shortly here. But once again, now that the sides are switched again, and actually, yeah, backs to the wall here. That is the name of the game for definitely not washed up. So they can't lose or drop any more games. So what is the most necessary ban coming into this next draft here for them being on the blue side?
I mean, I'll speak clearly and I'll say that I don't think draft is as pivotal right now as getting your mental together. I think if we are looking at draft, I think we want to see a bit more of a linear draft. I wouldn't mind seeing something a little bit more organized towards a specific goal because I feel like their previous draft was a bit messy.
Yeah, I
That's-
kind of agree. And Recollect and I, we were pointing towards it already during the last big ban phase that draft-wise, DNWU, they weren't actually looking all that bad, and I actually thought that M2M had the worst draft, but in the end, it's really just how they played the lanes what made the ultimate impact, and maybe at this point, DNWU needs to just take a step back, play strong lanes, and just snowball off of that and win with that.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna get ourselves into the draft just now. I'm just waiting on one confirmation from DNU, and then we should be getting into it quite shortly. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, let's not forget the sponsor of this big tournament. It is Opera GX. Since we have a minute to talk about it, we're gonna... Actually, never mind. We're gonna do it at the end of this game, since I don't want to take anything away from the streams. But yeah, let's go ahead and actually get into the draft. That is more important and more necessary, since we already have our draft coming down. So yeah, we are back to game one side. That means this. And then for casters, we have not JWL, but Oak and Liffy. No? Yes.
That's good.
That's
Sounds
good.
good.
That's good.
Yeah, we have a Jace gone already and the Bard. This time though, DNWU finally setting the Aatrox on the bench.
Yeah, they do take that away. I think taking the Jace away is, I think, a bit of a weird ban coming from blue side. They're obviously very scared of that pick, it being such a poignant B1 pick. I do see that must clearly be some kind of target ban. Trinidad taken away. This champion is looking so potent right now. Seeing a lot of picks at World and looking incredibly strong in the mid lane and as a flex pick option. So not surprised to see that taken away. And finally, MF and Lucian, two really strong AD carries at the moment. This leaves a lot open for draft. I think we're looking at B1 right now. There are a couple of key picks we're looking towards. I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more variability. If they want to draft more cleanly, nope, we see the Graves. Okay, that's exactly one of those key picks we're looking at. And flexing to multiple roles are really strong at the moment. So I love seeing this champion every single time.
Oh, and they answer it immediately with the Aphelios Thresh. And that's one of the bot lanes I love to see in M2M. Has been doing quite well on literally any bot lane that isn't a MF bot lane. And this time around, we finally get to see something of that. At least I hope so. I'm curious what DNW is going to answer this powerhouse with.
Yeah, I think this champion rotation here is kind of what DNW are pretty known for. They normally pick this bot lane rotation in similar. I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe Ezreal Bard picked into this, just something they've done multiple times before.
Bard's
Does a
banned, though.
really easy job. Oh yeah, Bard's taken away. You're right, my bad. But yeah, Aphelios is in a really weird spot right now where a lot of people can pilot him really well, and
Oh.
it is ultimately up to you to pilot that correctly. Oh,
The Yumi is open.
the Yumi is open. This is a champion that does really well with. I mean, we're seeing the Graves Ezreal already that he functions really well with. Does look like might opt for a safety pick instead. I do think Nautilus, okay, does get locked in, and that does give DNW. It opens up that early game. They got a lot of skirmish points. So as we're seeing the Yumi hovered, seeing that it was let through, that is quite funny.
Yep, the bag's open, and as it appears, the cat wasn't even in it to begin with. So, actually curious thing if they would pick this
Just
up
call it
here,
a
then I
slip
don't even know anymore what's going on here. But
Ooh.
it's a Viego. Method to Man is looking for a repeat because Yoft, my God, has he been strong? The semifinals, 2 games today already. Can they even stop him?
Yeah, I mean, the talent looked so potent game one, but this Viego, such a strong pick at the moment. And I mean, looking at into the champions he's playing into as well, really easy abduction points for him to be looking for to create positive fight points. I think, you know, Viega always one of those champions. You just pick it because if you know the team's going to draft well, then you draft yourself pretty well. And I think the biggest part here is that he has a lot of, especially through this thresh, a lot of avenues to create, you know, picks that favor him. So going to see TF and Rice taken away as well. And these are really key mid lane picks at the moment. Not surprised to see them knocked out in second rotation.
Absolutely. One of the key mid lane picks that has been coming out a lot recently has been the Silas as well. So I'd not be surprised to see that one banned out. But the Irelia, one of the stronger laners for both mid and top lane that gets targeted every now and then by bans. So also no surprise there. And for the remainder, I'm probably almost setting a top lane ban over the Silas ban. But oh no, never mind. There it is.
Yeah, I guess they're scared of it being picked into Nautilus. That depth charge combo is really good. And nah, just
Oh.
straight up into the R4 pick. This champion, it's fairly safe in this draft area here, alongside working really well with the comp they're drafting already, gives a little bit more team fight potential. So I'm happy to see it. I think the big thing is seeing what counter pick is available for DNW because we talked about it game one. They got counter pick into top lane just like they did in draft one, and the Fiora looked kind of middling into the Aatrox matchup, which we talked where it should be excelling. So it's really up. There's a lot of pressure now as they offer the Camille again.
I was gonna say you might be able to flex the Graves top and kind of outplay the Nara ranged advantage there, but the Camille, I guess, definitely works. You still have the scaling pressure, but on the other side, the Nara, we've seen Arnaxas on that one actually perform quite decently. He can play the lane fairly safe and just go into the late game with a decent presence. But on the other hand, mid lane pick left to do, and the LeBlanc, she is finally open, and DNW waste no time picking it up.
Yeah, this champion suddenly sprung back into the spotlight again as these mid laners at World seem a little bit more eager to be picking something a little bit more early game orientated, a little bit more control
The
focused. And
playmakers.
this champion is, I think, yeah, like the Aurelia, other stuff that we've seen banned away so far, it's really player focused. You've got to be good on this champion to make it look good. And Lissandra being a natural counter to that, and they picked into this game. They picked this champion game two and looked really good in it. And LeBlanc really struggles in this matchup. So there's a lot of pressure on them now to try and find some early game pressure in a matchup, which is kind of skewed against her favor.
Yeah, I actually love this Lissandra pick. It's really, really good into the comp of the NWU. As you mentioned, you can lock out the LeBlanc really easily. And you don't even need a mid laner that can carry. You don't need stuff like the Cassidin or the Rice to get in there because you have a Viego and you have an Aphelios that are just gonna completely steamroll the enemy team once they get some items under their belt. And as we already mentioned, Yoft, absolutely fantastic performance on that Viego last game. So I'd not be surprised if they manage to pull out a decisive early game once again, and that Lissandra is going to be big.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you just mentioned it there, but it's a really important point to note is that we already know who the carry is in this team. You can identify where your positioning needs to be for these fights and look at, okay, well, Yoff just looked insane this series and in his semi run as well. This player is gonna be the highlight reel for the team. Okay, let's play through that. And the Lissandra is a fantastic option, not only into the matchup that they've drafted into, but towards their comp as well. I think the NAR also pairs really well with that. And this gives them a fantastic mix of engage, counter engage, and pure damage. So I'm really excited to see how MDM's draft stacks against this DNW because we are seeing a bit of draft difference here. There's definitely more skew towards these solo lanes, towards the early game with this Graves, the LeBlanc. But this comp 5v5ing, especially with Ezreal, I mean, is really limiting, right? So how are they going to be able to play around these mid-game objectives, especially with Camille and sideline constant threat? It's definitely going to be on them to start fights first if they do look to 5v5.
I'd assume you'd be looking for some picks before the team fights actually happen, right? Catch someone off guard on the rotation towards the objectives in an ideal case. And from then on out, you have the poke advantage with the Ezreal, at least to some extent. That definitely gets more important in the late game. You have a Graves with strong burst, and you never can underestimate the LeBlanc that can get some nasty flanks off.
Absolutely. And I think flanks are going to be the name of the game for both these teams here because Camille LeBlanc always looking for flank presence in fights to try and get damage as quickly as possible on the carries that actually matter. But Lissandra also a very big lover of flanks alongside with this Gnar. So both teams going to be, I think vision is going to be really important this game, especially around these objectives, looking at setting up around aggressive vision towards either side of the map to get these TP wards in so that Gnar and Camille can effectively pressure out these fights in the proper positioning. I'm excited to see how the early game plays out because Viego Graves, a matchup that I really, really like because there's a lot of play between these two players in terms of which side are they going to start? Are there going to be any invade shenanigans to ensure that Graves actually ends up on Viego's side to try and contest him early game pre-6 before he gets that ultimate online? So yeah, I'm quite excited.
Yeah, since they took away Graves' cigar, we still gotta ask the question if he smokes or he's gonna get smoked. But that draft, definitely one of the more interesting ones we've seen recently. I'm super, super excited for especially that Aphelios Thresh bot lane. Because also Thresh, one of those champions that's really, I don't want to call it spectacular when he starts to roam for those ganks as supports do in this current meta, but those hooks are pretty cool.
And I think Warizar also has looked really potent this series as well. He's been my MVP so far for this series because of the fact that he's been very focused in where he wants to be. Whilst we saw Tay's, early rotations in game 1 looking really good, in game 2 they looked very lost in the Lulu. And I think Warizar, meanwhile, seemed to only, as the games went on, look in their stride. So I'm excited to see how they continue to excel in game 3. And I think Thresh is one of those, it's a perfect chance to be doing that because it plays so well with the draft that they've got so far.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's one of those supports. You can even catch a LeBlanc with the hooks if you predict it live, right? If you think back to Legends like Mad Life, for example, there's some impressive stuff.
Well,
you
also
can do.
live, we're on Twitch after all. But yes.
There you go. There you go.
That's
Wasn't he complaining about puns earlier?
That's joke number 3 for game number 3. I said 1 per game. I just did you guys a favor, so you don't have to do it.
Okay.
Well, maybe the Thresh will be the method to success for Method to Madness as they look to.
That's a word for LLR.
You're saying that M2M is going to give them a good thrashing? I'll see you guys never again. Bye bye.
It's gonna sting down on the screen. Anyway, okay, we talked about the bot lane so far, and I am excited to see Aphelios Thresh and how it impacts the lane. But Lissandra LeBlanc, let's talk a little bit about this matchup because I think Lissandra has so much space to play into the rest of the comp here. I think the problem is with this matchup is every time LeBlanc dashes forwards, Lissandra has really easy trade options where she just presses W, gets the electric proc if she does choose to go into that rune set with the Q and the auto. And LeBlanc, the bigger issue with that is early game trading for LeBlanc is I trade and I minimize minion aggro as much as possible, but Lissandra locks that out. So a little bit more space for her Hypothesis to maybe deal with LeBlanc's early game. And then looking at wave clear, Lissandra, one of those, especially when she was meta dominant, it was because her level 9 spike was so easy to obtain with the constant wave clear coming out. And into this matchup, LeBlanc's wave clear is really limited. So Lissandra isn't held back like she is in other matchups, like the possible Rise that we could have. Oh, no, Rise got banned away. But like these matchups, like the Rise. So Lissandra, a really relevant answer to the LeBlanc. And then when you're looking outside the scope of lane and we're looking at team fights, suddenly we're looking at how D&W want to play these fights, and it's through flank options and poke. And Lissandra really gates one of those. It's really hard for you to be engaging on top of a Thresh onto, I mean, it isn't a mobile carry, but we're looking at the Thresh and how limiting it can be for those flank options, and Lissandra just plays into that.
Absolutely, and the thing is, Lissandra can play both roles. You can play aggressive, look for those flanks, look for those engages even for your team, support the Gnar, to lock some people down to get a good Gnar ultimate off, or you just stick back to your carries and you W that LeBlanc as soon as she gets anywhere near you. So there are a lot of options, and I love this Lissandra pick. Haven't seen this champion in ages, like literally in ages, but they are making this work. Last game already, this time probably again, hopefully again, who knows? Maybe OT on the LeBlanc has finally found some answers how to play this.
Yeah, I just love seeing Lissandra in general. I think the champion is so sick. I love playing this champion, so I'm excited to see it in such... I mean, game 3, this is possibly the deciding game for the series.
And 5-stack. There's an invade
Ooh.
coming. There's
And we
an invade
saw
coming.
actually in game one, Tate actually warded this option out in the first game, but they do scout it out. I think they were trying to use that red trinket to spot it out like they saw in game one. But this red trinket might run out for this ward in the tri-bush, and it does. So this 5-stack gets warded. This gives free space for Love or for Mad, and you see the ping already coming out to potentially get an aggressive ward in this top side and start to look at Yoff's early clear.
Yeah, but Dargod has found him, and that is telling them that they know what's going on, or at least did spot them running into the jungle. So no early action. Maybe a double back into a late invade. You never know, but for now, DNWU definitely on guard here.
And the big thing that Max does here that I really like, you can see him sitting in this brush in the top lane even. Not that this is Spock's going to lane, so they know what side he's starting, but they gets the free cheese early, bones that burn plating, tactical sweep there to find a little bit of extra damage, and this is going to really establish Love to know what side of the map he wants to be on if he wants to early contest. He scuttles into the little bit vulnerable Viego.
Yeah, Arnaxus did the same thing on the Mordekaiser in the semifinals, if I remember that right. So he is used to early cheese on the top side. In the mid lane, you can already see the LeBlanc getting traded out a little bit. But overall, once again, we're looking into a fairly stale lane phase, I almost want to say. And the big impact is definitely going to come from the junglers making early appearances, I think.
Interesting thing to know here is that Camille has opted to go into Conqueror now. A lot of people don't really rate this rune on the Camille, whilst it is particularly potent at the moment. That's why you see it so often. We've actually seen a lot of variation in rune pages from Camille. And I think Press the Attack and Fleet have both seen a little bit of play. So I'm surprised we didn't see either of those. But I guess trying to play for as much DPS as big level 2 spike.
Death sentence lands, but the dredge line connects as well. That's a lot of damage on Verizard. He gets ignited. The shots land. Oh, flash in from Darkgod. Oh, there they ignite. He's gonna get roasted, and he's not gonna feel good about it. Exmar, he has nowhere left to go. Gonna get taken out. It's a double kill for the bot lane to start it off, and that is something DNW loves to see. Luffergan actually in the top side. Hook shot lands. The stun on the Gnar. Double jump might get him away, but the Graves damage is still there, and Yoff is there to turn it around. The Viego once again and seeks to make an entrance onto the stage, but has to back out. As I mentioned, early jungler appearances.
Yeah, both of them going towards the top sky. Hopefully, I think maybe you can see that Yoff is actually going to position to maybe try and get some more damage out onto Love. I'm going to sneeze.
Never mind. He turned around pretty quickly, bless you, and he's gonna take that scuttle. So we might see double scuttle crab here for M2M though.
Yeah, the problem is with this LeBlanc being shoved in is that Yoft gets free access to first scuttle, which is where Love does not want this. And because of the same side start, we talked about how Graves wants to be contesting this, but instead has it locked away from them, and it's going to have to look for an invade path that I get instead to try and find some semblance of a similar clear.
But let's talk about that bot lane for a moment, because what just happened is definitely going to impact how DNWU are going to approach the rest of the early game here, right? You can see a nice trading going out. T already roaming the level 3 Nautilus. Oh, that's a dead Lissandra. Never mind. Actually gets away with the Glacial Path. Marisa once again instrumental to saving his team. And Lurfergen, he can't really contribute anything else other than shoving that lane in. And M2M, they get a lucky break here for a moment.
Yeah, and Hypothesis having to burn both summoners there is going to be really important. We see both supports making best use of their time, trying to run onto this mid lane and impact this matchup early. I think definitely more important for Otide, as that's getting chunked out really hard in this top lane. But let's talk about that bot lane fight for a little bit, because I think Dargod has looked really good in this Ezreal so far, and knowing your limits is so important on these kinds of champions, and he does it perfectly there with the flash Q to find maximum damage onto Warizar before he even really understands where it's coming from. And that was the whole play, was that little mechanical outplay there to find maximum damage. In return, ended up getting them a double kill in a matchup where we thought the Thresh Aphelios really should be winning.
Absolutely, and it's gonna dictate how they go from here. And Naxos looking for the trade. Max has the stun though, but suddenly the Gnar looks a lot tankier than it seemed first. Oh, if that stun would have connected, that would have been a kill. But well, Mad Max needs to have a bit of a lucky break as well here.
Yeah, I think a lot of this matchup is knowing actually to minimize trading as much with Mega Gnar as much as possible. Some Camille players might be fooled into thinking, well, finally he's melee, I get to play my matchup now, but that bonus HP and armor is really going to benefit him.
Yeah. I was talking about the supposed strength of that Aphelios Thresh. This time around, they make that work. They get the lane priority and take a first Drake for that. It's a Mountain Drake on the board at 5 minutes, and the Lantern comes in with Death Sentence. Marizar doesn't even go for the play. Little bit too late there on the trigger. They get out.
And this is the kind of trading immediately. I think, thankfully, Otide shows me the perfect trading you want to be doing to this Lissandra. Use your W as mobility. Try and find an edge trade if you can with it. But in turn, make sure you hit that tether and find trading outside of Lissandra's effective range, because it will be lower than yours. And if you're able to repeatedly do that, especially with the Corrupting Pot start, it's going to hopefully lead into small lane leads, which you can then turn into possible rotations like you're seeing right now.
Yeah, but there's a Hextech ultimatum on the top side. Lovehergen is there with the damage, and that is a beautiful fast play on the Gnar. He did not know what hit him, and that's a flash burned as well.
And that's the power of the Sheen first pick. When you itemize towards the Sheen, you end up being very squishy, as we saw earlier when he was trading with the Mega, but in return, that damage output really high, plays really well into the graves of the support there, and this is the matchup you want to be impacting. I think getting this Camille online as early as possible is going to be really important for DWN to create fights in their favor. Because Lissandra and the Thresh limit Camille's potential team fighting so much, I think you want to put Camille in a spot as early as possible where she can effectively split push, because that's really where you're going to start creating smaller fights, skirmishes increase instead of these full-blown team fights, and then the Graves and the Lunk will get to play their game.
Yeah, absolutely. We're also looking at a first Herald spawning within the next minute, so might actually see some plays towards the top side coming in. Yoft already in position around the river. Maybe actually looking for a gank on Mad Max, who just dropped a pink ward into the river. That's gonna be gone. That's 75 gold burnt. Oh, never mind. He saw his red buff. He wants his red buff. That's acceptable. I'm always sympathetical of a jungler who wants his red buff.
Absolutely. It's not just red, it's doubles as well. You got to make sure you're in that clear as quickly as possible so you can stay on the map to impact. At the same time, we're seeing vision in general is a little bit sparse from both sides, and that's mostly because Tay and Warriors have been locked down in his bot lane just a little bit more. So we're going to see vision restricted for both teams. Generally, I think this plays out pretty well for DNW, and we've seen so far they've been able to play through that pretty successfully and take us up.
True shot barrage on the root though. Exmar, lots of damage coming in. Flash Q with the Essence shift, but doesn't quite land. And there is the return gank. The hour of doom has come for Otide, and he's gonna get swept away. Beautiful roam from where he's at.
And we talked about how the vision might be limited vision might help with DNW, but it plays backwardly for them as they're trying to make a plan to this boss side. No communication really made with their mid laner who goes for an aggressive trade. And this is the power of the Lissandra into the LeBlanc. Immediately, this Glacial Fissure, this Lissandra ulti comes out and locks down LeBlanc alongside with Rosar being there to secure that kill. And Lissandra, spell pen boots, even through that, picks up the first kill.
Absolutely. Beautifully done, and that's kind of lane advantage you want against the LeBlanc, right? So finally, M2M getting some things back as Lovehergen looking for his second buff, but exactly at the right timing to watch Yoft claim that Herald. So that objective is off the map. Otide looking to grab a root here. Not quite able to follow up on that. I was getting excited.
We can talk about it though, because Otide actually ended up burning his ultimate, possibly for the wave to create some pressure, but in turn that double tether wasn't available, so they were able to get out there just burning Warrior's flash, which I think is a bit of a shame. If you'd had that ultimate available, maybe a kill could have been made, but yeah. Warriors and the rest of his team for the moment there were fishing in the river, so...
You win some, you lose some, right? But hey, what do you have that Nautilus for if you're running around in the river? All right, next Drake, 50 seconds. So you want to get started on that vision prep. You want to get those rewards down and look for a lane priority, both bot side and mid, in the best case scenario. And Mad Max, no TP available. Arnaxas, neither does he. So maybe we can even see a top lane roam here, but... Let's talk about it. It's an Ocean Drake. It's a second Dragon Ocean Drake. Are you eager to fight about that? I don't think so, right?
I mean, I think you want to be limited, especially because resets, as you're seeing from both sides, are staggered. So no team is really in a position right now to be taking that. If any, it'll be, What a... Oh, sorry, I thought it was a steal. My bad, my brain went crazy. But yeah, no, both teams are staggered recalls. We see aggression in the bot lane.
T does find someone, but Yoft is there as well. Massive damage on Lefberg, and that Graves already taken down by the ultimate combo. The collateral damage comes in. Dargot on the backside, completely taken out by Exmar, and now it's 3v2, and T, he is not in a good spot right there. Goes for another dredge line, allows Lefberg to trade one back, and that Graves now has some damage, but Hypothesis, he is looking to lay some smackdown here for the moment. Otide does not land the chain to get away. It's a quadra kill for Exmar, and at the top side are Naxos looking for the plays, but the Hextech Ultimatum might turn this one around. You gotta be careful with that surprising Camille damage. The hookshot lands. That 1v1 is going down to the... and it's gonna be the Gnar chopped up and sent back to base. At least they trade one back.
And for a second there, it looked like Mad Max was losing that, but he's just playing his time, waiting for that mini to come back up so he can finish off that kill. But yeah, I mean, big thing to note there is we looked at Aphelios's guns before that fight. He's on the perfect place to be looking for. Chakrams get stacked really quickly on top of that. So he absolutely pumps out a load of damage. Exmar being huge for that fight. On top of that, the Otide coming in for this late rotation alongside Hypothesis, and we see the Glacial Claw come out from Hypothesis. Dashes in anyway, just giving away another kill needlessly in a fight that's probably already lost. And so, it's picking up the late now.
The chain lands, Glacial Path now got get away, and T is there to follow up and take him out, but that's a 2v1 against the Viego. Not sure if you want to take that, but good thing that Lefbergen is there to back him up, so they get out with an easy pickup on the Lissandra, get to rotate towards bot side, which is a little bit shoved in, maybe even looking for a dive.
Yeah, and this game's looking really close at the moment. Whilst DNW do have a 500 gold lead at the moment, look at Aphelios right now. Look at Exmar. He's already on his shield bow. He's looking ridiculously strong in these upcoming fights. And whilst they have nothing to play for at the moment, this just gives them easy time to rotate out his current guns to maybe get in a better position.
Oh. Hex Flash into the wall. The dredge line doesn't land, but they commit. The depth charge is in. The damage doesn't land on Exmar, but they gotta turn around because Hypothesis is porting in, and you don't want to mess with that Lissandra, at least for the moment. Otide is there to back his team up. It's 4v3, but they are not in a position where they want to fight. You gotta be careful with that Aphelios. Finally, the poke lands. So much damage on the Lissandra, and she gets melted, quite literally. But at least Yoft making plays in the mid lane, taking something back with the Herald here.
Yeah, I mean, M2M almost looked really good for that fight there, but they just didn't have the damage to follow up when Otide went for that aggressive play onto Hypothesis. So really good pick to be making there, making that even at the same time. Doesn't really matter too much though. First turret gold going over to Yoft, and we've talked about in previous games how strong he's looked.
Yep, he's looking plenty strong, and look at that damage on the Camille. Actually, not that much. Outbreak comes in, and there's the Hextech Ultimate. Shut it around. Look at that. Otide does not mess around. The Gnar connects, though. Our Naxos is not done here. Takes one back. It's a double kill for the top laner as Lefbergen flashes after him, trying to take him out. But man, that Gnar has some dancing shoes on. Might go matching with that suit. But in the end, let's be quite honest. That Mafia outfit from Graves just looks a little bit better.
Yeah, so it's such a close fight there, really decided by Gnar's final Megaform Q there, just being barely dodged out by Love there, which means even though they do end up losing 2 members, they pick up the Gnar. On top of that, they get the shutdown onto that Grave. So we talked about how strong Yoft has looked this series so far, but look at Love. Not only is he 5 camps up at the moment, 6 camps up at the moment. 3, 1, and 2. Yomu's already completed now. I must imagine he must be sitting on quite a lot of gold if we're looking at his items already. Finally, because of this whole unlock of the map, let's take a quick look at Vision, because red side, that bot lane is lit up like fireworks. Warizar and Yoft have done a fantastic job of minimalizing DNW's potential vision spread, and look at that. They just have complete control over the spot side.
Yeah, that's Warizar doing his job. That's a nasty ward coverage, but Lefbergen gonna ride into that death sentence, and that is gonna be hook, line, and sinker on that one. Otide barely gets away. Exmar looking for some ward clearance, but hey, that's why you have those wards. You knew what's coming, and you are rewarded.
And just like game one, it's you know, we're seeing the DNW kill lead go down. Graves big, no pressure being spent with it. We're seeing Love just giving kills out for free, over aggressive play on after a tower's unlocked. That should be your key moment. I've just seen 3 people down in the bot lane. I have to be really careful at the moment. Instead, over aggression means as Mad Max tries to go for the solo play in the top lane, probably won't spell out much, but yeah, the over aggression from Love there in a space where you don't really have we just talked about the vision. Ah,
Yep.
so sad.
You see the hectic pings go out. Death Sentence doesn't quite land, but they were ready to follow that one up. Second Herald is on the board here. And it's a 4v3 for the moment. We have a Mad Maxer right in the wings there, but of course Dargok is a while away. Depth charge, dredge line, follow up, tease in there. The Death Sentence lands. Now they can fight front to back to get something back here, but the Herald in the meantime is gonna get picked up by DNW. Oh my god, they re-engage. That's Yoff taken out immediately, but Hypothesis with a massive ultimate on the Lissandra, just going in and setting everything in place. There is nowhere left to go in Arnaxas. He's just gonna run Dargot down. Never mind, doesn't catch him, but still. Beautiful turnaround off the back of Hypothesis is engaged there, but you never can count out that LeBlanc because Otide is still looking for some more blood. Now he gets away with a flash over the wall.
Yeah, no, massive Lissandra. Oh, indeed. Hypothesis, I was thinking there. Where's Lissandra? Why isn't she there? The LeBlanc seemed almost uncaged at the start of that fight, playing really cautiously, and we can see why immediately after Hypothesis finds fantastic flank, huge ulti to lock down 3 members, and whilst the only kill ends up going up to DNW even, it's not really going to spell much for them because they get the reset timers in. Drake's up now. And it looks like hopefully XML will go straight from rotating for that wave in the bot lane towards this this dragon here, because it would third Drake of the game. We see the Cloud Soul, definitely kind of scary.
Yeah, it's getting a bit windy in the rift, but we'll deal with that in time. Leffergen looking to pick that one up quickly for his team. And I gotta say, I was super surprised to see that team fight actually escalated the way it did, because these two teams, they were so cautious about team fights the first 2 games. I didn't expect them to just go ham on that one. And now with the Herald in the mid lane, Yoft a little bit overextended. He's got to watch out. The death charge lands on the Lissandra, and Exmar can trade one back because Lurfergen did overestimate the damage his team would do to that turret. And now Dargot in the mid lane, completely caught out, cleanses the slow, could get away from that Gnar, but he is not gonna move an inch. He's gonna chill for a moment, and Mad Max, he might be able to trade one back with the Hextech Ultimatum, but overall, there is just nowhere left to run, and M2M are just steamrolling in this team fight right now.
And it really spells why they're losing this game. Even though kills even, we're seeing that 3k gold deficit, and it's through these places everything gets flubbed on Otide. They're taking them all for a run. But yeah, just over aggression onto. We've seen the Lissandra game too. They should already be aware of how heavy its counter engage options are, and then just needlessly burning flashes to pick up individual kills.
Oh no. Lurfergen, a little bit overextended here. That was a bit too greedy. Not quite on the same page as his mid laner there. But he finds a little bit of a re-engage. He has Dargod and Otide as support. Diego gets taken fairly low, and Marizar, he is so low he can't even join that fight. But they don't follow up. And now that Hypothesis is there, yeah, you're not gonna be in a position where you want to push into that jungle.
Yeah, the Aphelios is looking really big again. He's always playing around this shield bow cooldown. You'll see, though, they didn't take that dragon fight exactly for that. The shield bow was down. X-Miles on no summoners. They know that fight isn't the fight they want to be taking. But then as soon as that comes back up again, they know they're in position again. And you can see they push it as much as possible. And this is the ebb and flow of their gameplay. And it's what we're not really seeing from DNW right now as they look for a pick.
Yep, hookshot not in range for that one, but the chain lands the root follow-up, the beautiful defensive tomb here for Hypothesis, and look at the burst coming in. Oh, but Otide has some burst of his own, so they're trading the kill without getting anything. Jesus, my English is escaping me, sorry for that one, but that Lissandra is gone. That's a fact.
You're on point. I was just saying about the ebb and flow, and I think DNW take best advantage of, reset timers coming in for M2M, pick up 2 kills. Not only that, bit of a shutdown as well. And you know, I was about to mention how the Graves has looked a little bit lost so far. Went from 3-1 to 3-5. It doesn't matter. The rest of his teams are picking up the slack. We're seeing Tay and Otide make sure this game isn't close for yet. Still only a 2k gold deficit at the moment. Baron has spawned now, so we're going to see how this red side vision rotates into the top side. You can see Tay clearing out some of that now, but with the way the game's going so far and how on point Raw results been with this vision, I wouldn't be surprised to see this light up in the upcoming minutes.
Yeah, Varys are absolutely fantastic on the ward coverage. Overall, you mentioned for you a little bit of a secret MVP. For me, obvious MVP, at least in this game. Shot Barrage gonna check the Baron, and they'll take that as a thank you. We'll use that damage to start it off.
Absolutely, and they can play this game here because the damage on it is so swift, as you see here, as they try and make for the counter engage.
Yep, the ultimate is gonna knock a few people up, but they have no follow-up, and now T all by himself. There's a LeBlanc looking for the picks in the backline. Löfberg gets engaged upon, but they can kite it a little bit hectic. Ultimatum on the backside. Exmor just completely annihilating everyone, and Yoft is gonna be the menace in the front line that he's been over the whole series already. They knock him out. It's gonna be 4-1, and that's not looking good. That's a Baron taken.
Yeah, honestly, disgusting play from M2M there, knowing their limits very, very clearly, and you can see how Yopt and Exmar position themselves in those fights to really maximize damage. Exmar gets on his stacks as quickly as possible, once again fighting guns on point for this fight. If you look back and waiting for that engage, for that LeBlanc to jump forward to pump out as much damage as possible, as quickly as possible, whilst Arnaxis gets that Mega right on time for the fight, and whilst ends up dying, he's the reason they find that counter engaged. Just split damage from DNW means they find you know, that little smidge of HP from Exmar to find huge damage onto the enemy team, and that's Baron as well. It's gonna be a huge play for them now, especially with the next straight coming up in under a minute. I wouldn't be surprised to see, even if maybe they sack this to try and get as much of that standing gold unlocked as quickly as possible.
Absolutely, you definitely want to make use of that Baron buff, and so far M2M has been pretty good with that. But of course, on the other side, the NWU, they still haven't given up, and in my opinion, they are 4 to 5k down, but they're still not out of this. They just need to find the right fights, and so far, it kind of feels like they're always a little bit desynced, and once again, there's a pick maybe on Löfberg, actually gets away for a moment, but yeah, it's not gonna last. Otide can't connect either, thanks to the Lantern, Warizar once again coming in clutch. And to get back to my point, yeah, they haven't really found the fights on their conditions, right? It's always T going on by himself. Best example, the depth charge on the Nautilus on the Baron.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They're not playing very clearly aligned with what we talked about in draft of what their comp wants to do. Alternatively, I think M2M are varying very much to what they want to draft. I think the adaptation we want to see from DNW right now is finding a little bit more of that, playing through their own vision limits. Oh, big pick.
Oh, big pick. Yeah, the stopwatch burn from Yoff, but they do get something in return because it is the Nautilus that did overextend a little bit to save his mid laner. And Otide, I don't think he can do anything extra with the aggressive flash front to the grab, the double kill, and they're not gonna mess around with dragons or anything else, while Yoff, so does the base. Gnar into the wall. Max actually trying to catch them off guard, turn this around a little bit, but you still gotta watch out with Exmar. That Aphelios is dangerous. They're not gonna finish off the ball. Beautiful hook, but the instant cleanse by Ezreal. He is gonna get away. Maybe they can turn this one around. He has the vision thanks to the blue trinket, but they are still chasing because you don't want to get these guys, let these guys get away. True Shot Barrage sadly not ready. Nothing to stack on with the Q, and for now this is gonna calm down. Never mind, there's Tide on the backside of this, gets ulted by Lissandra, but there is still the Ezreal following hard on their heels. Hookshot lands. Exmar, he is looking pretty much crossed out here, and that's gonna be 3 easy pickups, and suddenly, just like that, DNWU are back in the game.
And I can't understate how well Otide played that continual fighting there. That turnaround in the base looks great, but Otide's ability to pull out that pressure, slow down their movement. Oh, as another fight starts, I'm talking, but
Yeah, there's a lot of damage on Mad Max. They sadly can't pick him off. Oh, goes back for Yoff. The ignite, the electrocute actually murders him, but it's gonna be a 1-for-1 trade. But quite honestly, trading that Viego for the Blanc, not too bad in this situation.
Yeah, it just gives them a little bit more space on the map as they have the majority at the moment. And what it does as well, it delays that Viego death timer, which means that hopefully this gives Love a little bit more space to, not just Love, but the rest of his team to not only invade, create some more space on the map, set up some vision, but maybe unlock more of this standing gold. Because once again, numbers advantage, they want to be pushing this as much as possible. Unlock this bot turret, see if you can pressure this mid wave as much as possible so that you don't have to think of that ticking timer before you have to have somebody reset and cover this. Remember, defenseless Nexus now.
Yep, that's gonna be an easy rundown. Xpeke wants to leave some words to that one. But overall, well, we can already see the plans in the head of M2M unfolding. It's gonna be the tier 2 bot side. Mad Max looking to sweep some vision out that Warriors are already worked on putting down. And they're just slowly but surely approaching. They're making their way towards that turret. Leffergen on the side. They're looking for some flanks. Never mind. I thought they were engaging.
And I mean, whilst we're looking at the siege here, look at Xmar's itemization at the moment. Lord Dom's third trying to maximize as much damage onto the people who are actually going to be threatening. The Nautilus, the Camille, the Graves, all of whom are going to be sitting on that armor point. So getting that Lord Dom's third definitely going to help with the DPS there. On top of that, Void Staff coming out from the Lissandra, which you may question mark, why didn't he go for the Cosmic Drive for more utility for these fights? But I think we're seeing now, look at the Tabai coming out from Mad Max. This Void Staff only going to really help. Hypothesis is the True Shot Barrage comes out. Hypothesis to counter some of that armor building and get on with as much magic penetration as possible. So I'm really liking these builds so far.
Yeah, same here, but we don't see a siege of the bot side because one, you have to kind of siege up against an Ezreal, which is not a fun thing to do. You have a Graves in there that's decently adept at wave clear, and you have Baron and Dragon spawning at the same time, so you gotta get going, gotta prep those objectives, and a little bit of a death push even going on here for M2M.
Honestly, it feels like unlocking that tower was a secondary goal as a little bit of support trading over here. Depth Touch is burned.
Yeah. Oh, Tide going in with the double jump. That's the ult down. There's the TPT. Once again, overextended on that Nautilus. Just completely taken out. Oh, Hypothesis seems to be willing at least to get back into that fight, but that's a Nautilus traded, and that's a massive pick.
Yeah, that was really big. I think overextension from Tay there, but they're going to see if they can try and maybe make return pick. The Hypothesis is in the perfect spot for this. As soon as you see this walk in, look at the possible flank
Glacier
point.
Path. He has the tomb on himself, though, but they turn around. Exmar looking for the ult here, but Tide on the side together with Dargard, and it is just gonna be Mad Max. Focus down. Ezreal tries to poke over the wall, but there is nothing they can do to save their team. Leffergen tries to kite away, but gets taken out by Yoft. No mercy from the Viego. King is gonna take back his throne, that's for sure. And with that, it's gonna be Ezreal and LeBlanc against the world as they have to defend an unturreted Nexus.
Yeah, big things now is conservation and stalling out time. Dargod and Otide know exactly they've got 20 seconds to last as long as possible, get as much damage out as possible and slow this game down.
Beautiful charge in there, and there is some damage going on as well because Dargod has something to throw at the enemy team. Clans comes in, but he's taken out. Double kill coming in. Never mind, that's a double kill for blue team, but the Nexus, as mentioned, no turrets, no mercy whatsoever, and it's gonna be the 3-0 sweep from Method to Madness here.
And that was Xmar's game down to a T. This Aphelios looked huge alongside with Warriors are creating just the perfect game scenario for him, I think, really. But, I mean, you know, we talked about Yovt in the first two games and how strong and how potent he looked. But Xmar just had the game of his life. Fantastic space to be in, especially because not only was he such a pivotal carry for his team there, but just a pivotal carry in a team full of players who are already looking so strong. He really, and almost alternately to what Love was unable to find there, was when he found that lead, he pushed it and he went with it and he found great success. Fantastic game from Xmar.
And it kind of really comes down to that I almost want to call it a lucky quadra that he got on the bot line, bot side, right? Because they died
Yeah.
against that Nautilus Ezreal early on. They lost the lane basically, and suddenly they were given a gift from the gods to get back into the game.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be overstated how strong he was. But looking alongside his team, and we look at how everybody seemed to fit right into the roles of what the draft they created. When looking at, Method to Madness's draft overall, we're seeing every player has a key role in this draft. And even though Yoft maybe wasn't able to find it that game, it didn't matter because Exmar did. I think alongside with Hypothesis doing such a good job of creating proper flank points when he needed to play aggressive and playing defensive with that team. And our Naxus being the CC bot. I'm gonna try and find these huge flank points and be a front line for my team to stall out time and create space for Xmar to find damage. Perfectly played. And yeah, definitely shout outs to Warazar, especially MVP status for me from this series.
Absolutely agree.
Nice. And yeah, actually, we have a lot of nice things also going on behind the scenes. I'll give you a nice little preview since there's so many of you guys watching right now. But before any of that, let's go over to our casters, get us an interview in as well. First and foremost, though, let's do the honors and bring back the familiar faces of J-Wheel and Oak. J-Wheel and Vic like this time around, sorry. Yeah, so let's walk us through the last game. Seemed like the definitely not washed up. Had a foot into the Silver Scrapes lined up. But other than that, yeah, in the end, it is M2M just reigning victoriously.
Yeah, so I mean, it will come as no surprise to, I think, anyone that the first clip we've got here is the mentioned godsend, the gift from the heavens known as the quadra kill on the bot side. And I mean, just talking through it, it's just the classic Aphelios situation, right? You're falling a little bit behind, and then your team just goes, "Oh, we'll give you a donation." It's just a case of you got your numbers advantage coming through, and unfortunately, in Ezreal that isn't focusing, the enemy carry is just going to get bursted down. And here, Xmar just does the amazing Aphelios play of just autos people and no one autos him. So you just slowly but surely build up the chakrams, you deal your damage, and realistically speaking, he had the same health at the start of this play as he did at the end of it. Right up until this point, where you do get Otti who tries to turn it around, but when you give a quadra kill to someone like Xmar that can take over a game, you got a problem from minute one, and unfortunately, those problems didn't go away.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they actually put him on that Aphelios that at least gave him the opportunity to showcase what he can do, because he is a fantastic ADC.
Yeah, and going into that point as well, we have a second clip lined up, and it's just kind of more of the same. It's a sentiment of Xmar just not really being touched at all, but also a little bit of overextension there from DNW as they manage to get the Herald here. They then decide to take this fight, but it just goes wrong. Lissandra able to lock them down, and you just see Aphelios spraying from the back. They're trying to run away. Fortunately, Nautilus doesn't go down, and they do manage to get the other two out as well. But it could have gone really badly for them. It could have been almost another quadra given over to Aphelios, and it's just they lined up really well from the side of Method to Madness. They kept their Aphelios safe. They held up the front line, and they were able to just piece up the rest of the fight.
One thing to know for both of those fights there is that he's also on the best fighting guns you can have for these kinds of fights as well. So not only are DNW overextending, they're also overextending into the worst possible DPS AD carry they can.
Yeah, it
not
is
to flame too much, but that's it. Like,
Hey,
no, I mean,
hey.
you're right. It is his best gun
Relax.
combination for team fighting aspects, right? And you've always got to be careful when it comes to Aphelios as a champion. His gun control has to be solid, but you have to be aware of his potential. And unfortunately, I think the same thing happens here in the next clip as well. It's the definition of insanity in a way. If at first you don't succeed, try again. But this isn't the right way to go about it, because guess what? We're going to see another fight where Xmar is miles and miles away, and he just doesn't really get focused. I mean, the front to back team fighting here is very good, and no one can touch him. He's not even really needing to participate because his Graves is popping off as well. And finally, when someone goes to the back line, it's just not enough. You can't 1v1 him at this point. You need to send multiple members, and unfortunately, he's able to just do absolutely everything that's needed to deal with that upper half of the fight, and the rest of the team carries the bottom half of the fight. There's nothing more to it, realistically, and honestly, the game lasted a bit longer than I was expecting it to. When they were in the base, I thought it was going to end at that point, but there was never really any moment in which I felt Exmar was sufficiently threatened to be unable to deal damage, and to me that's a worrying factor when you have things like LeBlanc, Graves, and Ezreal that can do damage from range to an extent. Things
Camille.
like the collateral damage, and it with this amount of sort of pressure that can be applied, you need to be really focusing the key carry.
Yes, and yeah, I think I'm just setting up a guy for an interview since we have actually the coach coming in from M2M. Normally you do celebration with the whole teams, but yeah, they have a business to attend as I think in sleep because of work. They have a different time zone than us. But yeah, actually kind of surprised it was the 3-0. I think that is not a first for finals, but I think you're the oldest CE caster here. In brackets. But yeah, what do you think about the 3-0 finals? What does this tell us about the level of
I'm trying to
gameplay?
think back, like through the history books. Didn't Method to Madness win the last split as well, or did they lose?
The
in
proving
final?
grounds, yeah, they won the proving
Yeah.
grounds. But that was open ranks, so like a mini tournament in between instead of the CE summers.
But either way, that they've looked really strong. Obviously, 3-0 in a finals is a pretty big statement. I think that normally we get 3-1s in the last one that I at least saw. And Method to Madness, they just really showed up. And I will say, I do think there is a part of DNW that maybe they just kind of lost their mental a little bit and it didn't really help them out in games 2 and 3. And as we said, win condition of team fights wasn't really met from them. So I do think that maybe they'll be a little bit upset with how they performed today. But either way, they still showed a lot of promise. And if they can come back, just reevaluate stuff and just get those small things sorted, I think they definitely had a chance to have good contention. But Method to Madness really looked strong today, and they just proved that they were the top team in this tournament.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I think we are ready for our interview, so let's get him in and we'll ask him some very small questions since we also have some other things to attend to. But that was definitely finals for the books. I think C has grown to an extent to where normally every game is close, but Method to Madness indeed has something else to say about that. And many teams already messaged me like saying, hey, do you think we would beat them or not? Actually setting them up with scrims with Method to Madness. But yeah, this just shows communities involved. People want to play good teams in the League of Legends scene, even if it is in the amateur scene. And yeah, let's welcome Dingo. Welcome to you, my friend. Let's get you the interview set up here in a second with all the casters. But for that, you need to give me a few seconds. Which one is which? That is not the correct one. 1 second. I'm working on it, okay, man? Relax. It's not that hard. Not that easy. Okay, we got Dingo on stream. Let's get you over here where you're supposed to be. There we go. And then I'll also take away... How do we get rid of the browser behind that? Hey. Working on it, boys.
I think you're doing good.
I want to see a high five from Lith and Oak. Get it done, lads.
Well, we got Liffy and Oak. Let's go. We got those two on stream. I don't know how to get the rest in.
Oh, wait.
I got completely
Oh,
left.
that way.
There we go.
Yeah,
now we
yeah.
have you in. There we go. Now I just need to get rid of the other ones.
Oh my god.
Where have you gone?
Oh
Not
my
that
god,
is
we're
nice.
everywhere. Hello.
Relax. I'm working on it. It's
They're
not easy.
multiplying.
Yeah, it's funny. But where do you guys come from?
Mate,
WTF?
so many
Oh,
Oaks. It looks
there
like
we
we're
go.
in a forest.
Okay. I got it. Okay, welcome, Dingo. Congratulations on winning, first and foremost. Correctly done so by your team tonight. You're the coach from Method to Madness, and we have a few questions to you, mostly about the games. Still have all the drafts open if the casters do need confirmations on the blue side left pick, and so on and so forth. But other than that, did you expect coming into the series to go 2-0?
Hello, thank you for having me. And yes, I think we were pretty confident that we need to go sleep, so we will do it fast. 3-0.
I like that.
Nice. Well, I'll let my casters each take one question, and hopefully whoever's prepared, quick, who's first?
Yeah, well, I'll go first because
Let's
I'm
go.
left to right, you know. So effectively, you guys have obviously kind of won back-to-back tournaments. Now, obviously, the mini was a mini rather than a major, but are you guys feeling pretty confident? Do you think you're going to come back and maybe take even more tournaments, or are there any teams that you're maybe worried about for the future?
I mean, it really depends on like the schedule that like we play some other stuff as well, and we are planning to maybe try to qualify for some like ERL. And if we have it like same time as CE, I think we are not like allowed to play as here as well. Plus the time might be an issue. But like it's really hard to say right now because like the plans are not like set yet. So if we can, I think we will come back. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I've got a quick question. Looking at your drafting, I think for this game, I was quite happy, especially with game 1 and game 3. And we're looking at key picks being able to put into draft, especially late. I think getting the Viego R3 is always a blessing. But Aphelios Thresh, I don't think we see enough of this champion. How much variety do you have in your bot lane? And do you feel like your AD can pull out any of the AD picks that you'd be looking towards? Or
I mean, we usually hold him on a leash. He only plays MF. But
yeah, there we
like
go.
the MF was banned, so we had to get something else. But yeah, usually he's pretty confident in everything, so it's fine.
No,
But
fair enough. Thank you.
last split it was CX. Now this split it's MF. Yeah, we'll see what's next time.
Brilliant.
Kind of want to extend on that MF pick a little bit real quick, because it seemed to me that you're not really drafting for MF comps, so to say. Do you feel like the champion does just fine if you play your standard style with it?
I mean, the champion is completely busted right now. You don't really need a specific comp for it to work. Obviously, it's easier if you have CC set up to do big plays with ult. But I think it was pretty fine in the drafts since it's so strong and
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean the big question for me then is, if you've obviously watched the whole series, we got to see some spicy picks like the Taric come through that we haven't seen as much of. And I believe we've been doing voting throughout, but I want to ask you as the coach, who was your MVP for this series?
I love that.
I mean, I think everybody did what they had to do here. It's really hard to choose one.
Was it you?
Nah, it's obviously the players, but you can't say that Arnax did anything special. If you just watch the game, but actually he gave us blind picks and was blind picked every game, and still managed to do really well in counter matchups, etc. Get CS leads. So everybody
Absolutely.
really did their part. But yeah, maybe if I have to choose one, of course it should be Yoft. He was really popping off, especially in game 2 with Viego.
Yeah, you had us in the first half there for a second, because
But,
you started off with he didn't look very special. I was like, oh, yo, this interview went a bit left, but I definitely agree.
I just like the idea that you 3-0 just so you could go to bed. I think that's the best part of the whole thing, honestly.
Well, they actually 3-0, so I could go to bed.
Oh.
Everybody wins.
By the way, when it comes to MVP of the series, we do have indeed confirmation. I did write it down all, and it is Warriors who won first and second game, and then the last game we didn't even have to, since at that point he's uncontested, since he only won 3 games. So yeah, that is the MVP of the series. Just pointing that out to give support some love.
Yeah, he played really well, especially the Taric one. It was his pick. He wanted to play there. He knew that he's most likely going versus Lulu, but he still pulled it off, and everything was pretty nice.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah, let me just. Oh wait, sorry. There's 2 more casters for questions, or 1 more, right?
I
No,
think that's everyone.
Wait, that's everyone?
Good.
Did we miss
Yeah.
someone?
Yeah.
Okay, I can
No.
count. Great. Well, I'll think if you want to participate in this, I'll then, once again, I mean, for all the financials about prize money, congratulations for the $600, or I think around 500 euros it is. But yeah, you will get all the information about that from us in DMs as always. And looking forward to pay you out once more. Last time it was Play Kbax, who's also in chat. Welcome to you, chat. For the CE Proving Grounds featuring Play Kbax. This time is featuring Opera GX. So Opera GX will help you to that money. And I think very well deserved if you had indeed such a great performance tonight. And yeah, let's get over real quickly here. Let's move my casters a bit up since we have something to look at. And listen to. I think, JVL, you do know a bit about what I'm talking here. Okay, let's get this one going. It's going too fast already, and it's already starting. That is not what it's supposed to do. Let me arrange this quickly. I know it's scuffed. Give me a second. Oh boy, it's actually so big. Why is it so big?
Oh
Why is it so
my.
big? There we go. Is that readable? Can we live with this? It's not perfect, boys, but
Yeah.
I'll make it work. Okay, let me get the other text out of the way real quick, and then we will start the scroll soon, as soon as I start the filter. Why is my filter already going off? That is not the right one. Give me 1 second. For those that want to listen to the song, you should go to listen to Twitch, since we do not have the song ready on Discord. You can't hear it on Discord just yet. Well, you can hear it on Twitch, so you just gotta listen in quietness here, or you can I'll actually turn up the volume on Twitch. That's up to you. But yeah, let's get this started. So it's a bit of a tease for what's coming up next, boys, lads, people, and friends. Since we have a few projects coming up. So this is one step towards a project. It's not the complete project, but I'll give you a listen in. I'll give you a little bit of a chat. You can already hear it queuing up in the background. So yeah, everybody get your Twitch unmuted. Listen, this is important. Unmute now if you want a first official tease of the CE song, I should say. So let's get this going.
Got this one on lock and log, your paths are pros. We ain't ever remembering the ones that froze. Gotta throw those hands, bulldoze, every man stepping out of the shadow, it's the path you chose. Connect the dialect to the track without question, sending this live and direct like J7. Stepping into the arena, bring the aggression, the impression that the 5-head plays are in session. Beyond the TJ League, we've taken it seasonal. All part of the C legacy to create something meaningful. Unconceivable, unimpeachable. Each team dropping memes like the PC babies, that then the next week getting strategical. But you better believe that they're beatable. Gonna tear the Alistair by the horns, take home the trophy like over storms. Better cross your fingers that your carry performs. You better click the link and buy your CE uniforms. No, they just hate us cause they ain't us. No, you'll always be number 2 to Stream Raiders. Don't care who you are, don't care what you made of. If it comes to a coin flip, no mate favours. War mode, challenger, are you that pressure handler? Split second skill in as the time gets granular. Rise from amateur, LP scavenger, growing from naive to the enlightened gambler. Just can't conceal, this goes hard as steel. Your boy Budget Blade cleaning up, I can feel the rage. No sage engage on Valorant for that bodacious cup. Cash your mind back, CEX me XD, we're having a riot again. For real, no danger, Riot Games, Jedlam right in the League World's anthem when?
No, Jerry.
Jedlam 2021. Connecting esports.
There we go. I'll give you guys a few seconds to catch up from Twitch since you are listening with the delay. But yeah, first impressions, anyone? I mean, you all guys, like I said, no OG casters. J-Wheel is the most OG in here. But yeah, there's some really good memes from back in the days. But yeah, M2M maybe in a future song as well. Dingo?
Yeah, of course, man.
Of course.
No
man.
problem.
But yeah, hopefully a few of you guys recognize the lyrics and some of the details that we put in there. But yeah, big shout out to Jedlam actually for creating this. And yeah, we'll give you guys more of this beautiful sample together with maybe... I'll give you this hint. Has any of you guys ever seen or, not participated, but at least watched this Twitch Rivals?
Oh, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're aware of what the concept is of that? At
Yeah.
least, nice. Okay, well, I'll just say CE Rivals might be coming soon. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. We had a pleasure. Dingo as well, thank you so much for the interview and for being here for the song reveal and all the other leases and teasers. But yeah, with that being said, thank you really, really so much, everybody, for participating and giving it their best try. We did have a lot of pleasure. And of course, the Method to Madness shall reign once again. So 2 seasons in a row, one of them being a minis, as actually the domination path that they have gone on. And yeah, recollect Liffy, J, Real, and Og. Big shout out to you guys. Make sure that you guys follow these guys on all social medias. We'll make sure that they are linked down below if they're not already. And of course, as always, we will see you guys next with some really exciting news and something spicy. Any last words from my beautiful casters for tonight? Left to right, what do we do?
Well, blessed. That's all I can say. Blessed. Good series, popping off, good energy as well. Obviously, really good stuff from the casters as well. Obviously, you as well, J7. And obviously, it looks like there's a lot to look forward to on the CE universe. So definitely make sure you stay connected.
Definitely stay connected. Mr. Liffy, anything for you? Newcomer cast number 2, and it's finals already. What a surprise.
I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me on board for this whole project with some amazing games. I had a lot of fun casting and being here in general. And I'm really not going to take too much time in that sense. Just going to quote some people I look up to a lot. Don't forget to love each other and be nice to people in League, right?
Yes. Indeed. Now, with that being said, recollect fellow enemy from behind the lines joining us here on the big stream. Had to deal with actually something regarding what gaming today in general chat was pretty funny. I'll mention it to you later, but we really appreciate that you are coming to us as well as other people. Really happy to have you, and yeah, once again proven to why you are here with today's cast. I think you did a wonderful job. So yeah, what is your last words for us?
I don't know anything about this, and I'm now terrified. Bye, guys. I might not be coming back again.
That's not what I meant, but okay,
That's
let's
a
go
Neff
with
in the
that.
chat right there.
Oh dear.
Oh boy. Yeah, Mr. Oak, anything for you, my dude? Really happy to have you picked up on the way as well. You're coming from Valence League, if I'm not mistaken, right? That's where
I'm
we
from
picked
everyone. I was
from
going to say
everywhere,
shout out
okay.
to all the amateur scenes, including obviously
Yes.
CE. So much fun to cast with these guys especially. And yeah, really nice to cast with Liffy too. First time cast with him, he did great. So yeah, thank you so much for having me.
No problem at all. And if always, boys, stay connected. Connecting Esports J, really, that's the one to hang on. I think we're going to trademark that one. It's good, a good hashtag on Twitter, stay connected. But yeah, connecting Esports is all about connecting you boys and, of course, casters, amateur league players, and anything else. It's not just about League of Legends. So we do appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll give you guys a preview of who else is in this community by our host of tonight. It's going to be a host with the beautiful Tokisaki. You might know him as a caster on our scene as well. Great dude, a great variety streamer. He does, I think, Pokemon right now. But if you're curious about him, we'll check him out in just a bit. But once again, real big shout out to Opera GX. Thank you so much for sponsoring this tournament. We really appreciate it. And of course, to all of our casters and staff members involved, we do appreciate every single one of you for taking the time to be with us on this free basis. And yeah, much love from CE to all of you. And enjoy the rest of your night and have a wonderful week.